I have missed everyone. We've been unable to release content for the last week because, well, like it happens sometimes, we got hit again by our draconian overlords, the YouTube wonderful people. We got hit by a strike last week. They hit us sort of like Friday night, so they made us wait till Saturday in order to get sort of a release content, do lives, do anything. The only thing I was able to do was sort of respond to people's comments on videos that they were commenting on. So I tried to post a few places to let people know I am not ignoring you. I am not releasing content because I don't want to release content. I got hit by a strike. So we made that video for everybody where we were talking about which seed banks to use. We finally made that video for everybody to let everybody know where they can trust in acquiring seeds, which are completely legal, by the way. But in the end, YouTube hit us with a thing and basically told us that we were promoting the sales of illicit substances. First of all, seeds are legal. They're not illegal. YouTube, get with the times. My God, we got hit again. I mean, this has happened to us a few times over the years. It's not a new concept. Uncle Potsquatch getting a strike, getting a week ban from YouTube. I mean, simply put, YouTube loves to screw with us. It's just kind of a real thing. I mean, it's not a new concept. It's something we're used to. It just happens. But, it is what it is. So let's go back to the beginning, though, and we'll say hi to everybody there. What's happening, Daddy-O Grows? Good to see you, buddy. All right. What's up, Happy Dude Grows? Good to see you, my friend. What's up, Soul Price? Good to see you, buddy. What's up, Anthony Cordero? Good to see you, buddy. What's up, Reds Homestead? What's up, Eugene Dolan? What's up, Oz Aquatics? What's up, WB Growers? Character Matters. Good to see you. Salute as well to you, my friend. What's up, Elizabeth Gomez? And yeah, no, right, Elizabeth? It was too bad. We got hit by it. They like to fuck with the Uncle Potsquatch. What's up, Fletch? What's happening, Deborah? Good to see you. All right, what's up, Kev T? Good to see you, buddy. What's up, I Spot Cannabis? What's up, Smokey? How's it going, buddy? Yeah, so basically that's what happened. That's where I've been. I haven't been ignoring y'all. I've just been under a strike, and I have not been able to release content, which is very annoying. For those of you who are new here, like, subscribe. That's right. Show YouTube that you want this content. Show YouTube that they're wrongfully persecuting my bald ass. And like, subscribe. Check out our other videos. Feel free to share them about. Go to potsquatchsales.com. That's our store. That's one of the stores that we showed in the video that got us in trouble. The funny thing is we are a legal company in Canada. We are an official legal company. Like, nothing we're doing is wrong or illegal in general in our country, but also to hell, even the American federal government have said seeds aren't illegal. It's okay. Seeds are good. I pissed off YouTube, Piff 1000, for like the 20th time now. This is not a new concept. It's happened a few times. What's up, Chris Barton? Good to see you, man. Plants are doing well. We are slowly but surely approaching. I did shoot an 8-week update video for everybody. I wanted to do a live stream before we released the video, just so people know we're back, people know what's going on. So on Sunday, we will release that video tomorrow morning for everybody. So that will come out tomorrow for you. So you'll be able to see the update of the plants there. We have the next plants going. It was funny. I was using one of the old Blurple lights, right? And so the last Blurple from back in the hood days, right? Sometimes I've been using that kind of for little seedlings and getting those going. And let's be fair, most of the light didn't work. It was a small section on the light that still was kind of kicking, and it finally kicked the bucket a couple days ago. So it was sort of strobing out. So I left it for a couple days. I was like, well, I've got the parts to build another little squatch. Should I do that? And then, so what I've done is I've pulled one of the little squatches out of the 2x410. I just did that before the show today. So I've got that set up on the new babies, which are the blue cheese by Girl Scout Cookies crosses. And then what I'm going to do is I'll pull the other little squatch out of this tent, and then I'm going to take a big squatch, and I'll just throw a half of a big squatch in there and just connect up one of the leads. It's not the greatest thing to do, but it's sort of working with what I got. What I used to love to do with our lights is I would have like two 2x4s next to each other, and so I would have one fixture in each one. That's how we did all of the seeds when we were breeding the seeds at the old lab before everything sort of fell apart there. So, is what it is, right? But, we'll make it work. Mudswat says, my leaves are looking funky. I don't know what's wrong. How are they looking weird? What's up, Jansen? What's up, Greg Page? Ooh, strawberry lemonade sounds tasty, man. Okay, well, what are you feeding with, Mudswat? If you add some Epsom salts, that's magnesium sulfate. So it's going to take care of your magnesium requirements as well as your sulfur requirements. Excuse me. But yeah, so long story short, I mean, it's been, it's funny because, sometimes like I'll go for a long time without releasing too much content, but when I'm told I'm not allowed to release content, when I'm banned from releasing content, it really irks me. It irks me so much, my friends. And so the fact that I had to spend this whole week not able to releasing content, I couldn't do the update video the way, when I wanted to. It was literally doing my head in. And I don't like being told what to do, right? Like I've always been that way. Uncle Potsquatch has always been a rebellious sort of dipshit. It's just the way my brain works. It's the way I'm wired. You know what I'm saying? And so when they bar you from releasing content for a week, so I'll have that strike for 90 days. After 90 days, it will expire, and then we'll go back to having no strikes on the channel, which I guess is good. Well, no, it is good. But, it's just very frustrating, right? Like, I make a video. I'm not benefiting from this video in any way whatsoever. I'm only promoting legal companies. I am trying to help people and share information, right? That's all I was trying to do. And then YouTube, in their puritanistic way or manner, living basically like 20 years behind the rest of the world right now, comes in and then, hits me with a stupid strike. I mean, it's happened before. We had a strike on a video where we were, making bubble hash once, which is weird because there's like 1,001 bubble hash videos out there on the internet. We got hit with a strike over that. When we had our rolling papers for our store come in, and then we did an unboxing of our rolling papers. So it was literally just me opening a box, showing boxes of rolling papers. And then we got hit with a strike for that as well. It was crazy, but it is what it is. Eugene Dolan says, I have yellowish leaves from the bottom up. Not too bad, though. I will try some Epsom salts. So yellowing is going to be a nitrogen deficiency. Okay, so if your leaves are yellowing, and if it's starting at the bottom going towards the top, that means you're root locked. You've run out of available space. So transplanting, if it's a photo, would be my number one recommendation on that, to give them, give your root ball a little bit more room to move around. Okay, but another thing that you can also do is you can try inoculating with a microzyme inoculation. It's not hard to find. It's usually fairly cost effective, and that is going to help at least maximize the space of your root ball's ability to sort of maximize that space in the pot. So if you don't want to transplant, or if you can't transplant, inoculating with a microzyme would definitely help for sure. Mudswat says, just rained today. I've not looked. Potsquatch Growers, please read that again. Read what again? Oh, you said you fed a 444 Gaia Green about 3 days ago. Okay. OZ Aquatic says, I chucked 7 grams into 800 milliliters of ganja tea. Am I cooked? Potentially. I mean, typically, though, I find unless you're actually using an activated fat molecule, you're not really going to get high making a cannabis tea. Cannabis tea, in order for it to actually work, you have to have those cannabinoids attached to a fat molecule in order for it to be metabolized properly into the bloodstream, to then thus deliver enough cannabinoids to your brain to have the effects that we're all looking for, typically. So that's where, if you look at like the sort of the weed tea that they make in India, for example, it's actually milk-based. Like, it's got like whole milk in it, right? So the higher fat content of that milk is what is allowing that tea to actually deliver the active cannabinoids into the bloodstream. That's where, for me, like, I love sublingual absorption, right? So where we're absorbing cannabinoids through the soft tissues of our mouth, goes right into the bloodstream, right to the brain, thus superseding, one, it works a lot faster, two, it's more effective, a little less goes longer, right? So that's always kind of my favorite thing, or way to go about it. And yeah, so much what my thinking is, you don't actually have a lockout per se, or deficiency. I mean, I would say it's more of a pH-based lockout. So that is definitely a feasible thing that can happen, especially if it sets on very, very quickly. And if you have been feeding, that is more indicative of a lockout rather than actually having a deficiency. Sorry, everybody. I'm just reading here. Marcus Paris, my newer leaves are yellowing. Are they going straight yellow, or are they just a lighter color of green? Because often you'll see with new foliar growth, okay, it can be a little bit lighter green, almost maybe a yellowing. That often is just the new leaf developing, and that will change as time. A great way to add a little bit of extra nitrogen in there is you can make yourself up, grab a little bit of unsulfured blackstrap molasses, mix that with a bit of coffee, and that should clear that up for you if you're having a nitrogen deficiency. Okay, so like Apache orange sounds more like a magnesium for sure, a magnesium lockout. Magnesium, and the orange is usually a magnesium sort of a lockout or deficiency. And then if there's any sort of lighter beige kind of colorations associated with those areas as well, that is going to be a calcium requirement as well. Yeah, no, I got a couple of buddies who definitely do sort of the butter, like using a can of butter in their cup of coffee and stuff like that. I mean, for me, I can't get past putting butter in my coffee. I mean, it's not for me personally, but Mudswat, you're going to want to augment your pH. It sounds like you've got a pH-based lockout in your root ball, so you're going to have to augment your pH. Don't just do it blindly, though. Try to get yourself a pH test so you can actually see what your pH is sitting at, and then you can kind of go from there. I don't disagree with you, Daddy-O Grows. The fact that I got a strike over seeds and legitimate legal companies, that's not illegal, and then the countless other things that you can see on YouTube everywhere, and that doesn't get strikes, it's astonishing to me. Yeah, so Jason J. Grusin is right. So check your runoff pH, but then also take a soil sample and check the actual pH of your soil as well. Mudswat, it can, but generalized fire pit ash is not going to be guaranteed to contain all of those things. The only thing that you can, in general, know from a fire pit is you're going to get carbon. It depends on the wood. It depends on what else has been burnt in there, right? So I, for one, typically don't use. I wouldn't use any form of ash in an indoor grow. Outdoor, maybe, yeah, sure, but I mean, I just don't do that. I mean, it's, you never know, right? But I mean, if that's something you're using, for sure. But it also, you got to remember, though, too, it depends on what you're burning, right? What's up, Roman Reckless? Good to see you, buddy. How you doing, man? We're just coming off of our strike here, and we're getting a live stream going for everybody. Yeah, Mudswat, that's what exactly. So make a slurry of your dirt, okay? You're going to make a slurry of your dirt, and you're going to test that slurry. Slurry just means putting a bit of dirt and water and then mixing it up. And then you're going to test that. And that's going to give you a rough essential pH reading on your dirt there. It won't be perfect, but it'll be close enough for you to kind of work with. So, how's everyone else's day going so far, though? Everyone having a good day? All right, 1 second here. I'm just going to open up the computer just in case anyone has pictures they want to send into the show today, and we'll be able to go from there. There we go. Just getting it ready just in case people send in pictures. Just give me a second here. Sorry, everybody. Be right with you. Give me 2 seconds. Shit, I missed some shit here. That's the thing is, though, Roman, here's my point. One, there were no direct sales. It was seeds. Seed is not illegal, and I'm in a legal country. Not to mention, federally, it is legal in the States as well. But secondly, this is what pisses me off about us getting the strike, everybody. YouTube openly advertises cannabis companies. cannabis is being openly advertised on YouTube. So not only are we barred from the monetization program, okay, we get a strike for promoting legitimate companies that we deem are good companies because we care about people and we want people to know where to go. It was a very common question for us to get asked a lot, so we answered it. The fact that YouTube is earning money selling advertising space to cannabis companies and then it hits us with that is just bullshit. I mean, Gazzer's thoughts on it was like, well, because, you know, the companies you're promoting aren't, you know, they're not connected to Monsanto or anything. That's why. And I was like, oh, I don't know about that, but maybe. Andrew Costa, yes, using like a microzyme from early development is definitely a positive thing. Starting your seedlings with a microzyme inoculant is definitely beneficial. It's going to help maximize, you know, your starting cups. As most people know that have been watching my channel for a while, typically, if I'm doing things the way I like to do them, is I'll start something in a solo cup, then I'll go to a 2-gallon, and then if I'm finishing it in a bigger pot, then I'll transition into that. But I like each root ball to be as root locked as possible when I do that transplant. So then it's kind of like a slow, controlled root grenade, and it explodes out. You know what I'm saying? But yeah. And in terms of Jason, azomite is a good, general azomite in general, like there's a lot of different products out there, but it's a great trace mineral fertilizer that is definitely beneficial to incorporate into your grows for sure. Secondary minerals that are very important for show. Smokey, if you send pictures into Potsquatch420 at gmail.com, okay? So that's POTSQUATCH 420 at gmail.com, okay? That is how you're going to send me pictures. And I am actually switching over to the Potsquatch account now on my email. All right, so I just pulled it up. So if anyone wants to send anything in there, we've now got it pulled up so I can actually pull up your emails and share your pictures, or we can talk about your pictures on the show. What's up, Tom Dobbs? Just chilling, man. Oh, I can't sue them, Piff 1000. I mean, they basically can do whatever they want. They're draconian overlords, the YouTube people. Maybe one day cannabis will have its fair space. I mean, it's like if you're a big company with a lot of money, YouTube seems to love you. But it's like when you're a small company and you're, you know, profit isn't necessarily the number one thing at all times on your mind, you know, YouTube seems to take an issue with that. See, part of what I'm thinking is this is what I'm going to do is when I get some extra money, I'm just going to pay for YouTube advertising. Imagine that. You see a fucking ad on YouTube of my shit. I'm like, well, you know, you guys kept getting mad at me for advertising things. So I just paid for advertising time. Another thing that I can do too is I can pay my own self. So I can pay the YouTube channel from my company, and then it's paid for promotional advertising from a legal company in Canada, which I believe puts me in a slightly stronger place with YouTube and their rules as well. That sounds really sexy, by the way, growing with a twist, everybody. Growing with Twist says, right now I'm breeding Banana Bubblegum Freak crossed by a Velvet Red Peanut Butter Breath /Z Skittles. And then F1 Femmes with a Berry Freak V2 Purple and a Garlic Icing by White Truffle Cut Bear Freak. It's funny in my mind, all these new genetics sort of there, right? Like, I mean, I half the things you're working with there growing with a twist, I don't actually know them. Yes, I agree with you, Piff 1000. I had to review your comment there. It was held for review. It's totally fine. You can say, fuck Miracle Grow. I'm okay with that one. Exactly, Mudswat. And YouTube, aka Google, is an American company. It is not illegal. Nothing I was doing was illegal. So therefore, YouTube should back off and get with the times. No, they totally do Roman Reckless. And again, like that's where I'm aware that they can, you know, on their platform do whatever they want in terms of their rules. I mean, I definitely think that there should be actual enforcing on what corporations or digital platforms like such as YouTube are allowed to do in their rules. Like, I mean, I feel like many cannabis channels are being persecuted, wrongfully shadow banned. We're not allowed to grow. We're not allowed to be included as a natural part of YouTube because of being cannabis related. But the fact is, cannabis is fully federally legal in Canada. State level wise, it's legal in a lot of states in the States. Federally, seeds are legal in America. They're not illegal. Okay. So, it's just weird, right? Like, I mean, I think YouTube would be very smart if they just got on board with standing with the cannabis community rather than, screwing around. Yes, you are not wrong, Greg Page. Silica is also very important. But then again, though, growing with a twist, since you love your mutations, working with all of these new age cannabis strains like you are in terms of crossing things and playing with things, then that definitely is the way to do it for sure. Because you're going to find more mutations in these newer things, 100%. Nice. You're doing a little bit of a soil pasteurization, Red's Homestead in the oven? Hell yeah. Bear with me here, everybody. I'm still reading. I'm playing catch up now. Okay, so here, Tom, you say in England, if you get caught growing 20 plants, you'll do 3 years. That's actually not that bad, in my opinion. Like, I mean, it shouldn't be illegal in the first place. So that in and of itself, I guess, obviously is bad. But you want to hear what's weird about Canada? Okay, we've got some weird laws in the books. So in many ways, under legalization, things are more illegal now than they were under prohibition. So technically, according to our laws on the books, if you sold 30 grams of pot to someone in Canada, right? Let's just say you sold 30 grams of weed in terms of the law. Okay, it's a ticket, ticketable fine. It is barely an offense, right? Now, if you actually sell 31 grams of pot, so literally, two little toothpick joints more, okay, you can face up to 14 years in prison and a fine of $5,000. And it's like, so wait a minute. You literally increase this 1 gram, and it goes from being a ticketable offense, which is not even really an offense in many senses, it's a ticket. And then 14 years in prison. That is technically the law. Now, mind you, let's be fair. I don't see any judge in Canada honestly imposing that. That seems silly to me. But, you never know. Awesome. Sounds good, growing with a twist. Oh, and also, growing with a twist. You remember that weird plant you sent that looked really, really strange, Australian mutant? I know what the strain is. I was talking to Gazzers. That's Australian bastard weed. It is a literal strain from Australia. It's this weird thing. So what you are growing there, that weird thing that you sent the picture of, remember the one that was like almost like kind of circular with how it was doing its leaves? It was a weird looking plant. That is actually an actual strain, a known strain from Australia, actually. Okay, we've got a bunch of emails coming in now. So we're going to pull that up for everybody. Sorry, everybody, I'm just reading here. Okay, I'm going to pull up those pictures in just a minute. I mean, Greg Page, if I was going to cross Panama Red with anything, I would probably go with more of an old school skunk. That would be kind of my thing I'd like to do. Yeah, I remember that, Tom Jobs, that Germany's is fully legal now. Three plants a household. I mean, when they said like 4 plants a household here in Canada, I mean, I think people should be allowed a bit more than that. Technically, with how our laws work on the books here too, it's 4 plants in flower. A lot of cops aren't going to know that, but the actual laws in Canada state it's 4 plants in flower. So technically speaking, you can have as many as you want in vegetative state. That is currently how the laws are written in Canada. Well, exactly, Marcus, and that's the way it should be, right? Like, I mean, people growing some homegrown for themselves, hell, even if they're for their friends and family, like I don't think that should be anything that we're wasting time with our, penal system, and dealing with that, right? Like, people should not be facing jail time for growing a few plants. People should not even be showing up in court for a few plants. At the end of the day, they shouldn't even get a ticket. Like, I mean, giving someone a ticket for weed even seems silly to me, right? So, So Pip, are you growing these inside there, bud? Or are they outside? Yeah, right. And that's the thing, Marcus. With a big enough vegetative window, you can grow a huge amount off of 3 plants. Just grow it absolutely ginormous, and you'll be good to go. All right. 1 second here, baby. Inside under the Optic 650s. Okay, cool. So what you got to remember then is too, bro. With that happening, how is this? I wanted Potsquatch email. There we go. Okay, so first, this first image is going to be a hibiscus number 7, a single hibiscus number 10 from a 10-pack, and lemongrass number 5 along with the veg tent with Fresno chili peppers and the clones. All right. Here, buddy, I'm going to flip the camera around so we can show these pictures to you. There we go. Very nice. There we go. We got a little Obi-Wan. Beautiful. Looking good, bud. Looking gorgeous. Nice plumpeting and stackabilities happening there. Nice shrinking pistils there. Looking good, bud. Looking very good. Hell yeah. There, give me a second. And let's pull up the next email. So this is an ABC by Purple Pineapple Express number 4. Crossed back into an ABC. Interesting. Yeah, that Australian bastard weed is just such a weird looking strain. There we go. Some more pictures of that. There we go. Very strange looking plants. I believe, what did he say this one is? Let's see here. He said this one is Banksia Tar Kush V2 from Australia. And then we've got, this is the Berry Truffle Freak. So it's a very interesting. You do love your mutations, don't you? Growing with a twist. Very cool, brother. Very, very cool. I remember, the first time when Freak Show really started to become prevalent around and all of a sudden, everyone was talking about it. I remember seeing it. I had never seen a mutation quite like that. And it was just sort of such an odd thing to see in general. Do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, the one thing you got to remember, Mudswat, too, is when it comes to sort of the actual legislature and a lot of the laws that are being drawn up in different places, like, a lot of them don't really make sense. It's the government. I mean, the government doesn't really understand anything about weed. They never have. I mean, if you look at legalization in Canada, the first 6 months of legalization, they lost $167 million. Like, how do you lose money selling weed? You have to be a proper moron to lose money that way. So everybody, I'm just reading here. Was it sent just now, Growing with the Twist, or was it in one of your older emails? I'm getting excited, though, for the new babies. I will also share that the current babies, as it were, so far with what because they're just little seedlings, right? Like, they're just little older. Okay, I'll find it a little bit later. They're very much exhibiting. So if you remember when we were growing the, what was it? It was a cheese something. Was it a street cheese? No, I feel like it was a cheese crossed by something else. I can't remember off the top of my head, but we had it growing. And remember how we had those like weird, fruity, weird leaves that were going on the cheese? Well, that's a very common thing for a lot of different sort of cheeses out there. So what I'm seeing on these seedlings is some very odd foliar growth. Like they're very weird, and they're very weird in terms of that. But at the same time, that is to be expected from a cheese. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen as these plants begin to grow out. Are they going to settle down, or are they going to have this odd foliar development still being prevalent as it vegetates out? That I'm very curious to see. Piff says they let these dudes in growing mass bullshit, spraying shit. The masses don't know better. Well, yeah. I mean, dude. I mean, a lot of illegal pot in Canada is irradiated. Tony Gilbert, man, I gotta do math. Hey, what? I feel like I missed part of what Tony may have asked. Let's go back here. I'm just seeing if there was a message I missed from Tony. So Tony Gilbert, I mean, it depends on really what we're talking about in terms of a decent grow tent. If we're just talking about a tent that doesn't come with any other accoutrement, as it were, I mean, we could say, what do we think it should be costing? Honestly, for like, let's say a good 4x4, and if you're not getting a bunch of fans or anything like that with it, it's still going to be at least a couple $100. So I've been using the worst tents on Amazon for the whole time I've been on YouTube, just because, I mean, it was hard for me to buy, bring myself spending a bunch of money on a tent, where at the end of the day, I'm kind of getting to a place now where I'm like, these tents are just so crappy, and they wear out so quickly, that if I were to buy another tent, once I have excess money in my budget for that, I'll probably buy a better tent. A lot of the higher end tents that are quite good now, like an AC Infinity, like that's also going to be coming with all of your controllers. It's going to be coming with air intake, exhaust. Some of these kits are coming with lights, right? So really, at the end of the day, if you're looking to get into growing and you're wanting to have a good starting place and a strong starting place, looking into some of these kits is the best way to go about it, because you can usually get a fairly good deal, and get all the basic pieces that you need. You know what I mean? Like, no, they do not, Tom Dobbs. They do not. I mean, there's organizations in Canada of all different races for sure, but no, neither one of those racial groups seem to be prevalent, at least in my part of Canada that I can see, in terms of what I believe you're talking about. One second here, everybody. I'm just reading and I'm playing catch up now. I'm so far back now. Playing catch up, playing catch up. All right, cool, perfect. What's up, Aaron Bishop? How you doing, buddy? You say you're sending love from the lower 49. Hell yeah, sending love back, my friend. I mean, okay, so Tony Gilbert, the thing you got to remember, anything from Temu is going to be the crappiest anything that exists. Temu produces mass-produced crap. It is by far the shittiest stuff you're going to get anywhere. I mean, they had a very clever marketing campaign, shop like a billionaire, but nothing you're ordering is any good. So I would strongly suggest, not ordering something from Temu. I get not buying the world's fanciest thing. Like I said, I myself used a Diodine tents, which are or at least at one point in time, were the cheapest tents available on Amazon, and they aren't great. The zippers suck. They eventually get light leaks. They're not great, but the basic functional realities of it are all there. But I would be very wary about ordering anything from Temu. Also, too, Temu is directly owned by the Chinese government. You are literally helping the enemy in a sense. The Chinese government is not our friend. Okay, so we don't want them to make money. We don't want their cheap crap that they're basically harming people to produce, paying pennies an hour to their employees, and then we're benefiting to get some cheap piece of shit shipped over, clogging international shipping lanes and shit. So I would just say maybe don't order grow equipment from Temu would be my number one advice there, honestly. But oh, there's my vape. No, well, you got to remember, everybody, like almost everything is made in China in this day and age. Okay, so there's good, there's mediocre, and there's really shitty. But a majority of goods or parts of goods are all produced in China. Most, like all LEDs that every company uses, those boards, those strips, they're all made in China. The good ones and the bad ones, they're all made there. The chips themselves, the diodes, are produced in Korea by Samsung, but then they get actually manufactured in China for producing all of their strips and boards and stuff, right? So it's not that everything made in China is crap. It's just you really have to be careful with what you're getting from China. And there is good, and then there is bad, and then there's even worse. And that's just the reality of the world, everybody. So just be careful when it comes to your grow equipment. I strongly suggest saving your pennies and buying the best thing that you can at the time. You get what you pay for. Like with everything, the same as in sort of basic grow equipment, lights and tents and all of that. The lighting world is a hard world in this day and age because there's so much competition out there, and it's funny, like a lot of these really expensive lights actually aren't any good. Like they're not great. One of the big things that a lot of lighting companies are doing these days is they'll say it's a top bin diode, right? Which means so they get ranked in their quality in different bins, right? And a lot of these companies that are saying that they're using top bin diodes aren't actually using top bin diodes. A lot of times, too, you've got actual knockoff diodes being utilized to produce their tech. One thing that a lot of lighting brands have done now, too, is nobody's using Meanwell drivers anymore. So what they're doing is they're doing like a white label knockoff version of a Meanwell. That's what Spider Farmer's doing. I believe HLG is doing that now. They were Meanwell for a while, then they switched to Inventronics drivers, and Inventronics drivers were like these, they were okay, but they were still a knockoff of a Meanwell, and they still weren't the real McCoy. It is very rare to find a lighting company now using legit top shelf bin diodes and using legit Meanwell drivers. I will say that our lighting brand is 100% guaranteed top bin diodes and Meanwell drivers. We haven't changed on that. It's definitely made it trickier to acquire parts for us now just because, to get the real McCoy is expensive. But, what are you going to do? Much what? Honestly, I don't think America could ever get back to a place where it's doing enough of its own manufacturing to stay alone. I just don't think that America or Canada, for that matter, when it comes to a lot of goods, can produce anything as cheap enough for it to be competitive, right? So it's an interesting thing. We've gone into this globalist style setup where we're also interconnected and dependent on each other for different types of goods as a global entity, that it's scary, and I don't know if we could switch back. I just don't know. Right? And growing with the twist, like that's where you start. Is you get the best light that you can to start with, and you go up and you work from there, right? You know what I mean? Like we started this channel using King LED King Plus grow lights. Old school blur pulls with, weird fan heat sinks that would always start to burn out on you very quickly. Utilizing typically like 2 or 3 watt chips, like so they're or diodes, right? Like they're these tiny little old school styles of diodes, very different than modern day tech that's in most things now. And that's what we started on, right? And we grew some dank chronic with those. Like, I mean, the old school blurples, they weren't what we have now, but they still did their job. Like they were still fun. After a point, they were actually, somewhat almost kind of decent. You know what I mean? What's up, Tony Clifton? Peace and love, brother. Well, and that's the thing, Tony Gilbert. I will agree with you. Like, I mean, a lot of areas in the world, it is getting so hot outside. So it has definitely changed the reality or the experience of the outdoor grower now. And we are working with changing seasons. You know, seasons everywhere are changing, right? Like, when I was growing up on the West Coast, you know, it'd get warm, but it would never get as warm as it's getting sometimes now. You know what I mean? I've also noticed that our summers and our winters are shifting on, they'll start late and run late. Like, I mean, our seasons are shifting, seasons are just in general shifting. And you're seeing, weird things happening all over the place. So, but again, that's where, as growers, though, too, we've just got to be adaptive, right? And I mean, so when it comes to heat temperatures outside, it is tricky. That's for sure. When it goes super hot outside, it becomes very tricky. And you would be shocked, using a small scrim. So a mild scrim over your plants can be a make or break thing for your outdoor plants and get you through sort of intense temperatures and shit. Yeah, no, I remember the old T8s too, Tony. I mean, I've played with T8s, T5s, T12s. T12s were fun in premise, but they just didn't crank enough. I would say the best fluorescent tubing that I ever was using back in the day would have been the T5. The T5s were really the money, I think. I mean, but they were still a fluorescent tubing. Like, you're never going to crank with fluorescent tubes. I remember back in the day, too, like, this is going back years now, but you get like the little grow tent, and then it come with like the big giant super huge weird compact fluorescent bulb with the big swooping U sections to it, and it was just an odd looking thing. Man, I haven't thought about those in years though, but yeah, that was the good old hood days, back in the hood days, man. Sorry everybody, I'm just reading. Hell yeah. Shit, I always forget how early, because you guys basically live on a flip flop of us almost there in Australia and New Zealand, in that part of the world, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, no, I could definitely do that growing with a twist. I will happily shoot you that, man, for sure. I'm just reading everybody. Bear with me here. Yeah, no, you're not wrong, Tony Clifton. There is a lot of new invasive bug species that are popping up all over the place, too. Different migrations of different things. Oh, I don't disagree with you there, Tony Clifton. A T5 system is still great for doing your seedlings. That is true. So, what can I talk about now? Um, I talked about how I pulled one of the little squatches out of the tent, and I've put that over the seedlings in the washroom now. So we've gotten that taken care of. I've got to pull the other little squatch out of the tent. I'm going to be putting in the sort of half a double squatch into that tent just to finish it off. I'm thinking realistically, it's looking like the silver train wreck. Those two plants will probably come down at around, give or take, 9.5 weeks. So coming up, sort of like Tuesday, Wednesday next week, will be 9 weeks there. So I've given them their last big feed. I've been starting my flush. I'm doing a week and a half flush. Typically, I like to do a 2 week flush, but they're in such small pots that I can kind of cheat on that, so I can get away with a smaller flushing window. I'm also using a flushing agent. Some people are like, ew, you're using a flushing agent? Like, it's not a big deal. Okay, so a water molecule, basically, right? It's like an L, right? So that L is what's scrubbing out the salt from our root medium and our root ball. When you use a flushing agent, okay, it's like having four L's all stuck together. So there's just more cleaning arms in a sense, if you think about it that way. And that's really going to do it. I mean, I don't use that right up to the end. I usually sort of at the beginning of my flush will hit with my flushing agent a couple of times, and then I'll just switch back to water. That flushing agent just gets it a nice, real big start to the actual old flush of the salt out of that root ball, and you're good to go. Um, bear with me here. Do it up, mud swat. Roast that cone. Um, I am hoping to hopefully soon have another tent set up, so we'll be, being able to either run a couple of things at once. I mean, in a perfect world, my perfect world, we would have two by fours and a 2x2, and we would use the 2x2 to be producing some more seeds and whatnot. It's all about working towards that, though, for us, right? We're rebuilding. We don't got a lot of space here, sadly. But I'm working on that. And hopefully we'll get there soon. Um, It'd be nice if we could have a couple of tents going, and then a tent making some beans as well. That would be something I would find enjoyable, and I think we'll get there. We just got to keep slugging away. The good news is too, in my personal life, it's looking like I've more than likely got a brand new job. It has been a very long hiring process for this job, but I'll be making a decent salary, decent pay. So I should be able to dig myself out of the little bit of a financial hole that I've been in. And it would be good to do that, because then I can start buying little toys, like getting another tent, for example, or getting, some other things. Like one of the things that I really want to order in to experiment on the channel with, actually, is some of these enzymatic products designed for helping you pop older beans. So in order to get older beans to pop, sometimes we've got little tricks like H2O2 we can do. We can file down the seed a little bit so that it's a little easier for the moisture to get in there. You can also do a pinprick as well. Keeping them on a heating mat to maintain sort of a 23 degrees Celsius on your water, which is an optimal temperature there for invigorating older genetic material to do its thing. But what I really want to try is these weird new enzyme products, right? I want to see if they're legit. I see the premise of it as something that could very much work very, very well. I just want to try them. You know what I mean? Yeah, so here in Canada, I mean, certain jobs, for example, would require cannabis tests, but like I myself, like I'm a medical cannabis patient, so a job can't discriminate against me in Canada. But I mean, at the end of the day, like you're not going to hire me to be a pilot or a heavy machine operator or something like that. I just don't have those skill sets. Like I just do not bring those skills to the table. My new job will be being the mobile maintenance person for a high-end seniors living company that owns a bunch of different buildings for old people. So basically, Uncle Potsquatch is going to be driving around in the caddy all over the place, fixing shit, monitoring shit, reporting on shit, helping support the head boss guy who's like the boss of everything. And I will be then kind of driving around and dealing with that. That'll be the new job there. But they've offered me a really good salary. They're going to pay me kilometers. I'm even going to get a health plan and get benefits, right? So for like things like glasses or medications or going to the dentist and these types of things. So it's been a long time coming, and I'm very excited about this opportunity. If my film career never goes anywhere, this job is such that I can move up in the company pretty quickly, is what it's looking like, and get paid very, very handsomely to do so. So I've been very lucky and very appreciative to the universe that this is finally working out. It's been a scary couple of months trying to figure out exactly, because I was kind of done bartending, everybody. I didn't want to keep bartending, as much as I loved my patrons and I love bars and I like going out for a beer and having a pint. I just didn't want to keep doing it, right? So I've got a new job. Every day will be a little different, and I'll be able to drive around, use my brain, and then be able to get myself sort of financially secure so we can actually start ordering in some stuff to play with on the channel to make some new cool videos for everybody as well. Montana Mike Grows. Heck yeah, bud. Montana Mike, if you don't mind, Mudswalk, could you type my email for me? It's potsquatch420@gmail.com. So Montana Mike Grows, if you send me a link to your channel, I am happy to go check it out. I'm always down to support and all of that jazz. So that'd be sick. Jansen Dennis, Josh, I'm a pilot, no drug test with my airline company or union. Oh, well, that's dope, man. I wasn't necessarily insinuating that there might be drug tests for pilots. I also just wouldn't be a pilot. I got a couple of buddies who are pilots and stuff, and I know that they smoke weed. So, but at least weed anyway. Yeah. right? The fatty thumb. I'm excited, but it's going to be a good time, and it'll be nice because if I'm financially stable, if I'm not worried about money and worried about all those kinds of things, I'll be in a better position to kind of make content for everybody and to release videos and release content for everybody and kind of keep it all going up. What's happening? What's happening, Count Dankula? Just chilling, buddy. Doing our first live stream after our week ban, after getting a strike wrongfully, in my opinion. The YouTube overlord struck again, my friend. Oh, stand up. There we go. Oh, aging is fun, my friends. Aging is fun. So here, so I've pulled out the one light in here. That's where the other little squatch was. We're gonna pull this one out too, and then I'll put like a big squatch just sort of here for these. Silver train rack is basically almost done. We're just finishing her off there. There is some new pistil growth at the top. That's not inherent of it not being at the right window or time. That is just something that can happen sometimes in an indoor grow with certain genetics. You're going to start seeing this new growth. One thing to be mindful of when you start seeing weird new growth on the tops like this, okay, so this one doesn't have any, but like that one's got it. So this pheno on the left is kind of doing it a bit. The thing to remember is you got to keep your mind open to when you start seeing these new types of growth, you can have nanners pop up, especially with some of these newer genetics. So you always got to keep a mindful eye. If you look at the blueberries, I mean, they're finally kind of stacking, but then there's this weird, they've definitely got some weird foxtailing going on. And they're going to be a while yet, though. Like, all the pistils are almost entirely white still. The Bruce Banner's chunking up, but in a really weird way. Like, the Bruce Banner in general is just odd flower formations. But still doing its thing, though. I mean, it smells really good. It looks like it could be quite fire. I'll probably will end up keeping a few buds from the Blueberry F11 and the Bruce Banner from the tops, and I'll trim those up. But most of these two plants, I'm just going to do into hash. The Silver Train Wrecks, this is going to be my smokables just because it smells so good. It smells super sweet and dank. So, like, that's going to be my main flower smokables that we're keeping there for that one. You know what I'm saying? There we go. What's going, Count Dank? You're tying branches down outside? Nice. What are you growing outside? I agreed. A true Aussie Ray. I'm a big believer on cooler nights. When I go lights out, I typically like to keep my grows quite chilly. Obviously, we don't get too chilly on there either, because if we go too chilly, then we can actually have nutrient lockout and kind of start screwing around with the plants in other ways, and then that's not necessarily desirable either. And then when it comes time to finishing my plants, right, I definitely go super duper cold at the last finish there, which is then really not affecting whether or not I get nutrient lockout. It doesn't matter because it's on the finish, and then I'm actually tempering the sugars and the resins of the plant that way, and it just always comes out really nicely, in my opinion. Sorry, I'm just reading everybody. Oh, I don't know, Jansen. I think there's a lot of things in Australia that could kill me. They got a lot of crazy bugs and snakes, too. Alex O'Callahan, it is technically part a Union Jack, but this is the original flag of Canada, okay? So it's not where the Union Jack is part of this flag. This is the original flag of Canada before we had the maple leaf. I don't feel a great affiliation to the crown at all. I'm not English. I'm Canadian. I am also mostly Scottish, Irish, and Welsh. But this is the original flag of Canada. Yes, it does hang in my kitchen. I also have the red ensign tattooed on my chest. That was for my grandfather who passed away. He was a special kind of dipshit and a special kind of shit disturber. And so that being on my chest for him was because when we changed from the red ensign in Canada to the maple leaf, my grandfather got very upset. He was very upset about that. He liked the crown and he liked England, right? So he got drunk and accosted the mayor of London, Ontario, about the changing of the flag, which is kind of funny because it's like, dude, the flag changing had nothing to do with the mayor, but hey, you little shit disturber. It's a funny story, and so that's why that's on the wall, though, man. Yeah, but don't worry, I don't identify as English or anything like that. I'm mostly Scottish. The biggest part of my genetic genome, everybody is Scottish, and then the thing after that would be Irish, then Welsh, and then then there's some Viking in there. I'm also part Swedish and Norwegian. But the biggest part of me would be a Scot. The biggest part of Uncle Potsquatch is a Scottish man. My people come from the Isle of Scot. Oh no, yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you, Alex O'Callahan. You know what I mean? If you see my beard, and now mind you, it's going white now as I age, but there's a lot of orange in my beard. My grandmother on my mother's side was a ginger. All of my cousins, that would be her granddaughters, are all gingers. So there's a lot of ginger there. And to be fair, there's not like a straight ginger, but like a lot of the males on my father's side have a lot of red in our beards as well. Yeah. There you go, Piff 1000. Hell yeah. Yeah, I did my ancestry test, everybody, and I was like, man, maybe there's something cool in there. Like, who knows? Maybe I'm part indigenous or maybe I'm part black. Not that I look like I would be part black, but no, I'm whiter than Wonder Bread. That's what I found out, baby. I'm whiter than bloody Wonder Bread. I'm the product of a bunch of white people fucking. That's what I come from. Good times, good times. Sorry, I'm just making sure I haven't missed anyone's messages here. Bear with me. Yeah, no, yeah, I come from 6,000 years of serfdom, ladies and gentlemen. Not an ounce of blue blood in me, that's why I'm so pretty. And my teeth aren't all totally fucked. No inbreeding in the lineage of Potsquatch. I'm an F1. Oh, good times, good times. Greg Page, does limonene equal orange flavor? I don't think limonene is actually where the citrus orange is coming from. There's literally hundreds and hundreds of terps out there. And they discover more terps by the day. Most big testing companies out there are actually only testing often for about 10 of the major terpenes. So that's where you even have to take reports on terpene profiles or terpene content on a lab test with a grain of salt, because you got to remember, like, a lot of these big testing facilities or companies are only testing for the 10 most common terpenes, where there is in actuality hundreds of them. And we discover more and more by the day. I was talking to Dave from Trim Test and Press the other day. I was working a gig with him there. We were doing some processing, and it was pretty cool, actually. He was talking about how you can actually order natural little bottles, and it's very expensive, of all the different terps. I mean, you can't get all of them, obviously, but like a lot of the main ones, right? So what you can do is you can order that in, and then you can begin to learn and training yourself by smelling these different terps. And then in a sense, if you were to think about it, it would be like kind of like being a sommelier for weed and training your nose in that regard, right? But I don't think limonene is creating the orange citrus scent, because I've had very lemony citrus on my cannabis, and then I've also had screaming orange citrus. So, like, for example, my Galactic Citrus Shiva can have a bit of an orangey hue to it. The Orange Warrior Widow also does, because that orange Hindu Kush that was part of the lineage of the parenthood of what went into that strain, it was very orangey. And then we had one pheno that we had. I called it the Clementine Orange Pheno, because, like, when you smelled these buds, it just screamed of natural, like, just of like of sort of a Clementine orange smell. It was really cool. I hope that helps, Greg. Alex O'Callahan, really, I mean, at the end of the day, proper plant diagnosis just comes with practice and experience. So if you're someone who's newer to growing cannabis, obviously reading a lot is always very good. But then having grower friends that have been doing it longer than you and that they might be able to shed some light on things, that is arguably the best way to begin to learn. Hands-on learning, practice makes perfect, and then just talking, nerding out with your fellow grow friends. You know what I'm saying? If I don't have a grow friend to ask their opinion, I would basically I would take a look at my plants. I'd maybe even take some physical pictures of it, and then I would put it up on my computer, and then I'd start reading about different deficiencies, different representations of deficiencies from different accumulated sources, and then begin to compare and contrast and do your best. Now, you got to remember also, too, certain deficiencies are going to exhibit differently on different genetics. And that's just sort of a reality of the sort of diverse world of plants. But yeah, I would take some pictures and then just compare and contrast and go through the internet, bro. And that'd be the best way to begin to see the differences, you know what I'm saying? And then begin to kind of try to identify stuff. The thing you got to remember is, like, sometimes when you're seeing a deficiency, it is actually not a deficiency in that you're not having the required nutrients, but you could have a pH lockout, okay? I'm not someone typically who pHs a lot of my stuff ever. I never have been. I've been always very open about that. But when it comes to certain types of things and at certain times, you know, checking your pH, adjusting pH, especially for certain strains. Certain strains are very, very sensitive to the sort of the pH scale, right? So that is a big thing to look into. What's up, Kong? What's crack-a-lackin'? How you doing, yo? Good to see you. For those of you who may or may not be new here, like, subscribe, tell your friends. We just got off our 1-week ban after they gave us a strike for telling people about good seed banks to use, which, again, not illegal. Like, they hit us with the thing saying we were promoting the sale of illicit substances, which we were not. It was kind of a joke. But the best way you can help us out to showing YouTube, we're here, we're loud, we're proud, watch out, is like, subscribe, and tell your friends. Check out our older videos. We got a lot of videos. I think we're at 930 or 40 videos on YouTube between our live streams and our different, how-to videos and all of that jazz and our grow updates. So lots of content for you to go through and watch there. 100% mud swat, most definitely. Because, like, going from a 6.5 to an 8.5 is a huge, huge change. That is a big swing. That is a big swing, man. Your happy place in most soils for most plants is usually going to be sitting at 6.1 to a 6.3. That is typically your happy place. But every strain's a little different. Every medium's a little different. Every feed's a little different. Even general environmental factors. So whether we're talking about temperature, light, air movement, hell, even where you're sitting at sea level can augment how your plant is going to react to certain things, right? So I hope that makes sense. It was our seed video, Tony Clifton. So we made a video last week, released it on Friday, talking about 2 really good seed banks that people, like, if they want to know where to go, this is Uncle Potsquatch's 2 humble cents on where to go. I didn't even include my own brand on that. I told you where to go. It was Mr. Nice Seed Banks and Todd McCormick's AG Seed Co. And then we got hit. So the video was up for about 4, maybe 5 hours. It was growing really fast. We had like 330 views on it, 50 likes, and it was growing extremely quickly. That video probably would have hit 4,000 to 10,000 views by the end of the week, but they got mad at me, hit me with a strike, banned me from releasing content for a week, and then also I'm not allowed to put links in the descriptions of my videos anymore. And they've also taken away certain things about my daily limits, or I didn't really understand that part of it. I mean, so basically, simply put, YouTube's just gone back to hating my guts again. So it is what it is. What are you going to do? I don't think they ever really stopped, but no one from the DGC show has reached out to me that I've seen anyway. And if I've missed it, that's definite possibility. I don't see every email that comes through. Hey, no worries, Joe Burns. I'm sorry that I couldn't stay up longer. That got us a strike and got us banned for a week. Sadly, it is what it is. But here we are. We're still here. We didn't ignore you. We weren't being lazy. We just couldn't physically release content because YouTube got mad. It's what I get for trying to tell people information and trying to help people. I get in trouble. It's okay. I spent my life being a shit disturber, pot stirrer, and getting in trouble. So it's not a new thing for Uncle Potsquatch. I've been this way forever. It's not a new concept. I'm always getting myself into trouble. I technically did a live on Twitch once. I've toyed with the idea of launching on other platforms. I don't want to launch on other platforms, though. I don't feel the need to launch on other platforms. I am a YouTuber. I am on YouTube, right? And Twitch to me is more for gaming. Like, I don't think there's an audience there on Twitch for something like myself. I mean, maybe there is, and I'm wrong. And that's the thing that frustrates me about with everything with YouTube is I'm quite happy just being on YouTube. I have no desire to go anywhere else. I already don't make any money from doing this, right? Like, I don't make money on this show. I'm not monetized. I have been at times. But like 98% of my content, they refuse to let me have advertising on it anyway, even when I'm part of monetization, right? Like honestly, with the views that I get and the interaction that I get on YouTube, I should be making at least a couple grand a month for the work that I do as the Potsquatch. But I don't make that. I never have, right? Like, I think the most we ever made one month, I was looking into it the other day because I was curious. I think 1 month I made $240. 1 month we made $240. And the funny thing is most of that came from membership dues and people just making donations to the channel. Like, it wasn't from, advertisements or anything like that. I think we maybe made like $2 from advertisements and some shit. Because again, like I said, 98+% of our content, there is no ads on it. So it's like, I don't necessarily need to make money off of Potsquatch Growers at all. Like, I didn't start this channel to make money. I didn't even start this channel to build it into a company. I didn't think it would become an international movement either. I started this channel for the simple fact of creating a safe space for anyone and everyone who wants to grow their own to learn growing and to have a safe place where you can learn and ask questions and come as you are and embrace loving growing weed. I never thought people would tune in. I never thought we would get to a place where, like, at times we're growing, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of subs a month, having tons and tons of views. I never thought we would hit to that point. But here we are, and we're still going, right? So, I'm not, I wish they would stop shadow banning us, right? Because it's slowing our growth rate. Like, that's the hard thing. That's a frustrating thing is it slows the rate at which we can grow the channel. And it sucks because there's still so many people that I get every week. They're like, how am I only just hearing about your channel? I'm like, I don't know, man. I've been doing it for almost 10 years, mate. So is what it is. Yeah, WB Growers, giveaways on YouTube do equal views, but I also feel like I'm not going to buy my views, right? Like, I'm going to get my views naturally from content and being real with people. Like, I shouldn't have to buy views that way. That's what I view giveaways for views as. It's buying views. It's not, you're not getting legitimate views from people who care about the community, who want to learn or be part of the stuff. Like, don't get me wrong, we've done giveaways before, for sure. I've done a lot of giveaways over the years. But it feels like I'm buying views that way. And I don't want to buy, I want people to be here watching the show because they want to be here watching the show. That's what I care about. That doesn't mean we're not going to ever do giveaways. Hell, we do sales too in our store. We do a lot of stuff. But, so I have mixed feelings on that. Plus, also, too, like, if I'm doing a bean giveaway or something like that, which we have done on YouTube, and there was never really any issues with it, but I could foresee that being something that comes and bites me in the ass with YouTube. And when because it's funny, YouTube only chooses to enforce regulations when they want to. It doesn't happen consistently all the time. And it's just so weird. Like, I watch all these other channels, and they never have any issues going, no problems whatsoever. But I don't know. Part of me is like, 'cause a lot of these channels do have sponsorships. A lot of these other channels have big companies behind them. Maybe that's why they're safe. I've always been more the sort of outlying rebel, calling it like I say that, I'm not afraid to speak my truth and what I view as the reality of things. I've called out companies. I've tested products for companies and called them crap. I've taken on some of the biggest lighting companies in the game publicly. you know, and I've done that to stand up for the people at home. I've done it to stand up for the home grower, the normal people. You know what I mean? Like, I've called out companies for charging too much for what they're doing. You know what I mean? So I think that might be in part what's painted a bit of a target on our back at Potsquatch Growers. Could be that. Don't know. But and it's not even that I'm against sponsorships. Like, I mean, I'd let companies, depending on which company it is, I'd let them sponsor my channel. I have no issues with that. They want me to do giveaways of their products. If it's good products, I'm happy to do that. I love empowering people. I love helping people, right? And again, I'm not opposed to making a bit of money doing things either. But it's like, you know, that was never the origin source of what this channel was meant to be, right? Chedu Betcha. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Sorry if I'm missaying your name, Chedu Betcha. But I got hit with a strike over my seed bank video. So I made a video saying the best 2 seed banks that people should go check out. And they hit me with a strike, and then they hit me with a week ban, and then they took away certain features of my channel that I'm no longer allowed to use. I'm not allowed to embed links, for example, in the descriptions of my videos anymore. I got slapped on the wrist, and the totalitarian, draconian overlords that is Google and YouTube got mad at Uncle Potsquatch, and they're like, no, don't promote the sale of illicit substances. And I'm like, well, fuck. 1, it's not. 2, seeds are legal. 3, I didn't. And 4, what the fuck? Anyway. You know, I like to push the envelope. It's not a new concept for me. So at least we're sticking to our origin story. At least we're sticking to what we do and, you know, how we've been. Yeah, no, overseeds, bud. Overseeds. I was very, it's like, you know, there's been weeks where I go like a week without releasing much, but like when I'm forced to not release shit for a week, that is rough. Like, and I was so mad. The first couple days I was really bummed out about it. And very frustrated. But, you know, what are you going to do? Like, it's not a battle I can win. YouTube can do whatever they want. YouTube can do whatever they want. And I have really no control over it, right? So, it is what it is. What's up, Working Blue? What's crack-a-lackin'? How you doing, my friend? Good to see you. And Mudswat, that sucks. I'm sorry that you had a male come out. I mean, and I know, I understand where everyone's fascination or want for feminized beans. So they're like, well, I don't want to spend all this time growing something out just to have it go male on me, right? But you got to remember, though, feminized beans are wonky. Feminization is what's leading to genetic degradation with cannabis the world wide over. That's where we, you know, have to accept that sometimes things are going to go male. We got to all, in my opinion anyway, in my humble 2 cents, we all need to switch back to using regular beans. And that is how we save genetic integrity for the future generations of cannabis. You know what I'm saying? Like, and every other true breeder out there thinks like I do. Okay? It's not like I came up with this concept. Shanti Bubba thinks this way. Tom McCormick thinks this way. All the old OG guys think this way. Feminization is something that has led to, in many ways, diluting and ruining modern day cannabis. Like, that's why everything foxtails now or nanners on you. You fart at it wrong. You look at it wrong. You talk to it a little too gruffly and it reacts, right? And so that is just sort of the simple reality of it, really. Yeah, and I mean, I can't speak to plant counts in other parts of the world, but I will speak to the legislature in Canada. It's technically 4 flowering plants is actually how the wording on the law represents. So you, in at least Canada, can have as many plants and vegetation as you want. And almost all plants will show gender eventually in the vegetative cycle. You just got to be patient. F1 is a traditional crossing between a male and a female, okay? And S1 is talking about using forced feminization back crossing techniques. So, like, if you were to take a female and you were to cause it to herm, chemically, obviously, toxic shock, right, is basically what we're doing to trigger that part of the plant. And then you use that to then make further feminized beans, right? So let's say maybe you took some clones of the plant that you're going to trigger to herm, and then they're knocking itself up. So they're genetic clones of the same plant, okay? That's be an S1 back cross. Now, if you keep doing that repeatedly, generationally going forward, that's also what leads to genetic fragmentation, which then compounds and creates issues for people. But yeah, anyway, I don't like feminization. I'm anti-feminized beans. I don't. I do have feminized beans in my collection, but I didn't buy them. Like, they just came into my possession, right? I'm not a feminized kind of guy typically. I will grow them here or there for sure. Don't get me wrong. Like, I mean, if it's something that I really want to grow and it's a strain that I can only find in a feminized version, yeah, I'll grow it. I'm not going to breed with it typically, but I'll grow it. But I am against the whole feminization movement overall. Like, that's just not my thing, man. It's just not my thing. I like normal plants. I like male and female plants. I like breeding traditional regular photos. I love selectively stabilizing and inbreeding lines traditionally. I don't like doing a feminized back crossing or any of that kind of crap. That's what leads, like I said, to degradation of the genetic line and weird shit starting to happen, right? Like, back in the day, mutants existed in the cannabis world, but they didn't exist in the way they do now. Like, weird mutations are popping up left, right, and center all over the place. Polyploidism always existed, but it is so common now. It's oddly common to me now. So, am I a purist by thinking the way that I do? Maybe I'm a purist, but that's okay. You know what I'm saying? It's just the way it is. Jonathan says, I've got 3 outdoor train wrecks that's re-vegged on me, and the only thing I can think of is the shade in the afternoon. Well, shade's not going to cause necessarily a re-veg in my mind. What part of the world, if you don't mind me asking, are you, Jonathan? No, I know. And Jonathan, it's true. Like, feminized beans have become sort of the standard go-to in the cannabis seed world, the world over, right? Like, almost everything almost everything in his grandmother's feminized now. And it's going to take years to revert back. But if you go to anyone who's a legitimate breeder and you go to their website and you go and check that out, okay, you will almost never see feminized beans. I know that Shanti Bubba once in a blue moon occasionally does a feminized run of things. Todd McCormick, I don't think ever does anything feminized. You know, um, just don't avoid it. Potsquatchsales.com, regular beans, everybody. But at the end of the day, it's sad but true, and that's just the nature of things, right? Like, so when you get the chance to buy regular beans, don't be turned off by it. Don't turn your nose up on it. Understand the history behind feminized beans. Understand that you're using a Plan Z built into the plant, which is a survival mechanism to perpetuate the species. That it should not be used as our primary breeding capacity for making genetic stock and stores. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, that's just, no, don't do it. Don't do it. North America, Ohio. I've been growing them outside since late April. So Jonathan, with the re-veg that you're seeing, are you seeing like a classic re-veg where you've basically got singular serrated finger leaves sticking out of the buds that are beginning to happen? What's up, Johnny Summertime? Good to see you, buddy. How badly is that re-veg that you're seeing also too, my friend? Yeah, so Nick, though, you got to remember though, bud, it shouldn't take you months. Okay, it shouldn't take you months to see the gender of your plant. Most plants will gender. Okay, in veg. And most plants will gender within 3 to 7 weeks of germination. Often, will they express their gender glands aggressively? No. Sometimes they will. Sometimes you'll see very aggressive gender expression in the glands on your plant earlier on in veg. So that's where we need to learn to see pre-glands and begin to get familiar of watching pre-gland development on our plants. And so, for example, typically it's easier to spot a male than a female, given a few inherent things that we're going to be looking out for on our pre-gland development. So, what do I mean by things that we can spot on a male? Well, typically, okay, the male gland, now, I've seen some glands that I was sure were male glands actually throw a pistil, so you bear that in mind. Typically, the male gland is going to form, and it's going to look almost like a weird little apricot shape, okay? So when you see a tiny little apricot developing at your main segmentation, so your main branches, it's going to exhibit sex first on its main segmentation. So the second we see like a little ball-like gland that's an apricot shape, we're not going to automatically go, oh, it's a male, but we're going to watch. The second you see it have a little friend pop up next to it, male. The second you see that little gland begin to rise up away from the nodal segmentation on the slightest, even the slightest bit of a head or a neck or a stalk, boom, male, okay? Where females, okay, they're not going to have a cluster typically. They can, by the way, they can, but like they're not going to have a huge cluster initially on their sexing or gender expression of what we're watching, okay? So what we're really watching for is to make sure that we don't have those glands stacking or little friends showing up too early on. And then we're keeping a close eye for watching that first pistil explode, right? And then we're going to see that first. The second you see one pistil anywhere on that plant, you know that is now expressing female. Does it not? That doesn't mean it can't hermy on you. It doesn't mean it can't have a late onset hermaphroditism in response to stress triggers, or you can even see later on something, and this is common now in terms of the genetic fragmentation that I'm talking about, where male glands will grow, and that's what I call a classic herm. You've got actual sets of female and male glands developing in a normal expression of their physical reality, right? That's actually very rare. I've only even seen that myself a few times from the get-go. It's more common to see sort of nanners or later mid-flower kind of hermaphroditism sort of expressing itself, right? Hey Dan, I'll drink one for you, buddy. Sorry, I gotta read now. I'm falling behind again. This is what happens. I start talking and then I fall behind. No worries, Daniel and Drasty. Better late than never, buddy. Hell yeah, Dan Stutzky. Are your cheese autos smelling cheesy? Do they have that classic super cheese smell? So Nick, if I were to train and mainline my plants out and keep them under 5 inches and just grow them on a main line below 5 inches and somehow keep that going, would it count as a plant? Obviously, they probably would. I'm just being silly. But yeah. See, Jonathan, that almost sounds weird to me. So did you say yes that you're seeing singular leaves shoot off them, though, Jonathan? Yeah, it smells like nuts. Well, man, if that's what your nuts smell like, man, shit, man, you should have a shower, bro. No, I'm just teasing. Man. I'm just teasing. Bear with me, everybody. I'm still reading. I'm just trying to play catch up now. Joe Burns, have I ever used silica for stem strength? Yes, silica is extremely important. Did I use a specific introduction of anything silica on this run. No, typically I use diatomaceous earth for my basic silica needs. You can make a tea, obviously, if you want it to be a little bit more accessible. You can buy silica products, which are a little bit more accessible to the plant for quicker, easier uptake. But diatomaceous earth is essentially just silica anyway. So that's typically where I'll often be getting my silica from in terms of stem strength, would just be, incorporating diatomaceous earth. I don't know if you meant to click that, but Daniel Andrassi's comment of females have two V-shaped pistils is totally okay. Typically, yes, you will see a double pistil expression, Daniel. Sometimes you will only see a singular expression as well. Sorry, everybody. Now I'm just reading. Sorry, everybody here. My buddy's like, "Are you still coming to the wrestling thing?" There's like I don't even know what you call it. It's like the Latin wrestling where they've got like masks and shit. So I've just got to message my buddy here and say, yes, buy the tickets, because I'm in a show, so I can't text him back. One second here, everybody. There we go. Perfect. I've sent the message. I've done what I can. Yeah, Luchador. Thank you, buddy. It's Luchador. There we go. So yeah, that's coming to Vancouver here. It'll be on sort of this. It's on tonight and tomorrow at the Waldorf. So I'm gonna go down and watch some of that with my friends, have a few beers, and have a laugh. So yeah, well, what should we do? Maybe I should show you some of the weird, odd foliar shit that's going on in these weird blue cheese Girl Scout cookies, which is inherent though of cheese genetics. They get weird leaves. All right, let's go show those. Okay. So, first of all, look at this. How weird is this? The initial singular serratids have come out almost like a weird floopy M. So I'm very curious to see what happens on the next set of true leaves on that. As you can see here, there's some weird shit happening on these leaves here, which to me actually looks like, so if you see the weird discoloration there, that is what fungus gnat larva looks like in terms of when those little larval bastards are chewing on your leaves. But if you look here too, so those leaves are just being real floopy on how they're developing, which is very common for cheese. But I ordered in more beneficial nematodes. So we've got more nematodes coming. Yes, there's been a crazy stretch. Part of that was exacerbated when the light killed itself in here. And then they didn't have any light for a couple of days. And now I've switched them out though. And we are good to go. And we've got a squatch light over them now. So they'll autocorrect, and I'm not worried. A lot of people will worry when their plant falls over like this, like, oh no, it's fallen over, leave it alone. You don't need to prop it up. The plant will lift itself up naturally. It'll lift itself up naturally, and everything's going to be just fine. Cannabis is a really smart plant. It knows what it's doing. If you're talking about those, no, they're not fried. It's just doing that on its own, right? So it will be interesting to see what it does. Um, the great thing is there's no heat stress in there. They had a bit of blurple light, and then the light itself started flickering, and I was like, okay, we gotta trash that. So I had to pull the one little squatch out. I've hooked that up, and that was just a couple of hours ago. So we just hooked that up. Give them another week and a bit, and they'll be doing okay, I think, and they'll settle into themselves again. And so I am curious though to see if the inherent sort of weird, wonky nature, right, of cheese genetics in general continues to exhibit itself as we grow these plants out. Got our pot poppers here. I like pot poppers. They're a great product. I typically order mine from Amazon, and they're great. I will say the one thing I'm not in love with about pot poppers is their price has become extremely expensive over the last number of years, which sucks because they never used to be that pricey. Like, they cost money, but they weren't that expensive. But they've definitely quite expensive now. And Liddy, no, you never use nutrients on plants that young. You do not feed seedlings. That is in a Pro Mix HP. It has got more than enough nutrition for the first couple of weeks of its life. So when that little seedling is first developing its initial root system in that solo cup or whatever your starter little pod is, don't feed. Don't feed. You're going to burn your plants. Okay? The real trick to seedlings, don't overwater them. Don't overlove them. Don't try to feed them, and just leave them alone. They will figure themselves out. And just take your time with them, and they'll do okay. Once you get to a few nodal levels, you've got, maybe, let's say 2 or 3 sets of true trifoliate leaves setting up. So that would be one. If we count our bicuspid layer as sort of an initial nodal, which I would, that's 1, 3 or 4 nodal layers typically, and then you can start feeding. No, I do not use lush potting soil. I use ProMix HP with microzyme. ProMix HP is a great product. It is the soil that I use. 1, it's affordable. 2, it's accessible. 3, ProMix makes really good products that I have come to rely on over many, many years, and I trust them as a company. Oh, well, I don't know everything, Mudswat. Thank you for your kind words. I don't know everything. There's a lot of guys out there that know just as much as me. Some people who know even more. Or some people who know things that I don't know, but then I know things that they don't know. There's a lot of great growers out there, and there's a lot of knowledge, right? And the thing you got to remember, too, when it comes to growing, there's 1,001 highways, okay, to the same end destination, okay? So anyone who's ever going to tell you one way or like my way or the highway doesn't know what they're talking about. Very rarely will you ever see me make a definitive singular statement saying there's only one way to do something. One thing that I would make that about, dry trimming. You don't wet trim, you dry trim. It's just the way you do it. And when harvesting your plants and drying your plants, you cut the whole plant, hang the whole plant. It's the best way to do it. Don't do it any other way. Cut the whole damn thing down, leave the plant intact. Obviously, we're going to pluck all those fan leaves when we cut down for harvest, obviously. But by leaving the entire plant together, we're slowing the rate of cell death within the plant itself, which is a positive thing. We are elongating and slowing down the rate at which we're drying at, thus helping us to preserve terpenes, etc. within the plant itself. And then we're going to trim those dry. And once we trim those up and those are all dry, then they'll go into our jars. Now, sometimes you're going to have to wet trim. I get that, okay? That isn't... doing that is more of a situational thing. Like, it's because we have to do it this way, this time, right? And that's the way to go for it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so Liddy, I don't know where you're from. I mean, it's legal here for anyone in Canada to grow 4 plants. I'm a medical patient, so I'm allowed to grow a lot more than 4 plants. I've had my medical permits now for 15 years. 15, 16. Oh, shit. 16 or 17 years. Wow. I'm getting old, everybody. I'm aging, God damn it. I'm aging. Oh, you're in Bermuda. Cool, man. I've always wanted to go check out Bermuda, man. I think Bermuda would be a dope place to check out. You have pot shops and it's legal to buy it, but it's illegal to grow it. Well, that sucks. But you know what? I will say though, Liddy, hopefully, give it some time, right? And laws do change over time, right? Laws will change. Governments become more open to ideas and conceptual ideas. If you've already got basic rec legalization, right, and you can buy for recreationally, then you're good to go. But I think they'll come around to letting you grow eventually. Anon, what do your flowers look like? Well, I've grown many different things over many years. Right now, got some silver train wrecks that are almost done. Here, there. So these are some silver train wrecks we got going. They're on their flush now. We're having a bit of new growth on this one pheno here. So the new growth at the top there, that's not a great sign, but it happens a lot on genetics. So what you do when you see this new growth, though, we got to keep an eye out for nanners. I'm not happy with either of these two strains that we've got going. This is the Blueberry F11. It's just been, in my opinion, inbred too much. And I'm not digging its flower formation. You know, the Bruce Banner, she's a weird plant. She's stacking up. She's foxtailing in weird ways. Frosty is all hell. Smells really good, but I'm not happy with the flower formation on that. I love the Silver Trainwreck's flower formation. It's a very classical formation. It is developing the way it's supposed to. At least it's the way I want it to anyway. Maybe not supposed to. I mean, there is the traditional bag appeal, and typically most strains back in the day had a fairly general uniformity to them, so like foxtailing was not very common when I was a young grower, like back in the hood days when I first started growing as a kid. Foxtailing was not common the way it is now. And even when you did see it exhibiting itself within a strain, it wasn't like modern day foxtailing. Like, has anyone here grown Violator Kush? Violator Kush is one of the oddest, weirdest foxtailing that I've ever seen. Like, so the buds, right, like they'll start off, so for the first like 3 or 4 weeks, right, like it'll have its little bud, but then it foxtails hugely. So it actually almost ends up looking kind of like a hand, where the foxtails are kind of like curving around like this, like a hand, right? Now, I will say, not great bag appeal. Foxtailing doesn't hurt our cannabinoids. It doesn't hurt our cannabis, but it does rob us of weight, okay? Foxtailing does rob you of weight. That is true, okay? But it's not making less active cannabinoids in the plant, okay? But one thing that one could argue that is very positive of foxtailing, okay, is when we use a foxtailed plant, it is perfectly suited for making things like hash or running it through bubble bags, you know what I mean? So with its natural, thank you very much, Anon. This run hasn't been a perfect run, but they never are, right? And it's been a fun experiment watching the 4 different strains kind of going at each other in the localized sort of area. We're going to be doing a singular strain for the next run for everybody. So we're not going to be messing around with different strains, sort of doing different things. So we're growing out some blue cheese by Girl Scout cookies. And we'll be doing that one, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, so Dan Stutzky, I mean, I love making hash for show. I feel you, man. So like, for example, we've got some great triking out happening on both the Bruce Banner. And there's some actually really good triking out happening on this Blueberry F11 too, right? And it smells really sweet. It smells nice. Most of it will probably, of those 2 plants, will be turned into making some hash for myself, just because I love hash. Hash is my favorite thing in the world. I actually prefer smoking hash to flower. Let's not lie to ourselves. It is legit one of my favorite things. It's so beautiful. I would also say I'm quite gifted at making hash, Liddy as well. Anyone who's ever tried my hashish was like, holy shit, man, this is like the old school shit. And I will admit, it took me many years of screwing around with stuff to get myself to a place and a processing application to making hash the way I wanted it. For years, I was on a mission to like make hash that I remembered. Like, so I spent a lot of time in the UK when I was in my teenage years, spending summers there. And so like hash was very common. I smoked a lot of hash in France too, a lot of hash, when I was going through the French Isles and all that kind of crap and stuff. And so I had these wonderful memories though from my earlier years of beautiful, properly made hash. And hash was never really a common thing in Canada. I mean, where we may be the world leading growers, um, not to say that there's not brilliant growers everywhere, but like BC weed, BC bud, that's where I'm from. I'm a BC grower. I'm a BC grower who goes toe to toe with anyone here. And so, like, there's a reason why I'll say we're the world leader or one of the world leaders. Okay. But we didn't necessarily develop a true culture or origin of making proper old school hashes, right? So if you look at doing different hashes from all over the world, they have slightly different sort of approaches to it. The way I make hash now is kind of an new school way, right? So I typically these days, because I mean I've done dry sift, I've done everything to collect my tracks. My favorite way is I'll run it through a washing machine. I'll run it through bubble bags. I'll collect those, dry that out, and then I'm going to finish that in a Frenchy cannoli style. So boiling water in a jar, and I smush it out, I smush it out, I smush it out, I smush it out, then I re-roll it up in my hands back together. I'll let that sit for a minute, then I'll repeat that process. And so that process itself is what's converting it over into that old school proper hash that we, all remember from back in the hood days. Typically, I find it takes 6 to 10 repeats on that to kind of get things to where I want it. But that's how Frenchy cannoli did it. So I take basically bubble, right? But then I finish and mix it all together like an old school finish. So like I have a little short video. Was it a short video or was it a short? I don't know. Something on my channel. But where I called it a new school temple ball, right? And I wasn't, so I'm not sitting there collecting resin glands of my hands and forming it that way. I am using my hands to finish it, Frenchy cannoli style, right? But so that's where it's a new school temple ball. It's not exactly the same production method as the old school stuff, but also the old school stuff had a lot of plant particulate in it. Old school stuff had hair in it. It had a lot of dead skin cell tissues of the person doing it in it. It had hair in it often, right? So the new school is just a much cleaner way of doing it, where we're still getting similar results to what we remember. We're getting those flavors, we're getting those profiles, and it's just better. But Jansen, I don't like dry ice anymore. I did do dry ice sifting for many years, and I was a big fan of it for a long time. But what I have noticed is when utilizing dry ice to collect trikes, and we're doing like a kind of a dry ice sort of sift approach, shall we say, it dries your trikes out far too much. So you're losing huge amounts of the natural oils in that shit, and that is not good. Mr. Green Thumb, Ottawa. Yeah, no, I'm a full spectrum kind of guy, as it were. So like when I'm using bubble bags, I'm not really segregating anything out too much. I will use my mixing bag. I will use the next bag down from the mixing bag as like a secondary filter, and then everything else is going into my bottom. It's usually a 25 micron bag, and then I'm just pulling everything off that bottom. Then I'm drying it out all together. Then I'm blending it together. I'm tempering it. I'm forming it. I'm finishing it Frenchy cannoli style. And one of the real tricks that a lot of people forget is when you make it that way, once you're done, you gotta let that shit age too. So once your relative humidity is fine, it's safe where you could seal it up, and it's not gonna have any issues or molding issues on you. Seal that up, wrap it up. Sometimes I'll wrap it in I'll even wrap it in a Saran wrap, and I'll just let it sit there for a couple of months. Sometimes I'll portion it out into parchment papers, and I'll let that sit. The longest I've aged sort of a hash that I finished that way was about 2.5 or 3 years. And I will say, after about 2.5, 3 years, like, it just became so beautiful. It was such a wonderful finish. And where it was always good, like after it had aged for 2 or 3 years, it became a different beast. And it was one of the most wonderful, enjoyable things I've ever enjoyed. Do I freeze dry things? No, I don't. A Frenchie? Oh, a Frenchy cannoli that you've been aging for 3 years? Hell yeah, buddy. Oh, totally. And Mr. Green Thumb, Ottawa, right? Like, I love I'm trying to get to a place now where I'm going to start collecting hashes again. I mean, I didn't stay on top of making it, and so I kept consuming what I had because I really like it, and then I ran out. So I got to get back on to producing things. I think going forward with my hashes, what I'm going to do is like I get to enjoy half now, and then I'm gonna seal and store half, and then I want to like I'd love to get to a place where like like going in and having a rack of rare wines or scotches or something like that. I want to have a giant rack of rare aged hashes that I've made. You know what I mean? Joe Burns, Frenchy Cannoli was a person. He is now dead. He was not necessarily everyone's favorite person. He wasn't the most personable of people in the world. But the man was a genius. And so he is arguably considered to be the greatest modern day hash master that ever there was in terms of sort of North American and European standards. So Frenchy Cannoli is no longer with us. He has passed away, but he was a man. And Frenchy Cannoli was, like I said, not the most personable of people, maybe lacking in interpersonal skills, but considered basically the greatest modern day hash master of all time. Exactly, Dan. He does live on through people's teachings. There is a woman, my buddy was just telling me about her. Dave from Trim Test and Press, I think it was. Um, Fuck, what's her name though? I feel like it's like something like the Hash Queen or the Hash Goddess or something like that. And I think she's down in the States. But she was a student of Frenchy Cannoli for like 20, 30, like 15, 20 years. Long time. Like arguably probably one of the longest running students or apprentices of Frenchy Cannoli. And so she actually has her own program now where she teaches people not only the productions of hash, but like the origins and the histories of hash and all of this. And so she's just down in the States there somewhere. I can't remember the exact information. Hell, like I can't even remember what she goes by. But Dave was telling me about her, and I'd love to meet this woman. Hell, I mean, I'd love to sit on her class if I was ever in her neighborhood. Right? Frenchy Cannoli may not have been the most personal of people, but the man loved hash, and he loved making hash, and he loved teaching people to make hash. And it's funny because the guy, like I said, he wasn't the most personable people ever when it comes to interpersonal skills, but like he loved hash, and he knew his shit, and he loved teaching people and sharing stuff like that. A true OG and prolific name in the history of the hash world. No, I don't freeze dry my bubble. I don't freeze dry anything. Anybody? I don't own a freeze dryer. Um, they're too expensive. First of all, I'd love to have a freeze dryer just to play around with, but let's be fair. If I were to freeze dry anything, it would probably be making food and doing things like that, um, and storing food for the end of the world. That's what I would use a freeze dryer for. But I'm not going to go drop $4,000 on a freeze dryer. It's not in my budget. I can't even afford a new tent right now, ladies and gentlemen. Like. I need to get tents. I need to get some other stuff for the channel to get other things going. And I can't even swing that right now. So buying a $4,000 freeze dryer, that's not on the books right now. Yeah, no, I hung out with Remo. Remo's okay, you know. I will not detract from who the man is. I will say there's a lot more to who Remo is than a lot of people know. Um, Remo is not my favorite person in the world in the cannabis space. He's not a bad dude. I've hung out with him. I've talked to him a bunch of times. Um, Overall, not a bad dude. He's not a bad dude. We'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that. But yes, dude, I hung out with Bubble Man. If you go on my Instagram, there's a picture of me and Bubble Man hanging out, getting stoned. He doesn't drink. We were at a bar though, so we were just smoking a lot of weed and hash. I was drinking, obviously. I met the Bubble Man, and I got to meet him at Lift Expo. So if you actually go back to the live streams I did from the Vancouver Lift Expo, the last time it was here, that's actually where I met Dave from Trim Test and Press as well. I actually do an interview with Bubble Man, and he's talking about sort of the big machine that they make and that they sell to companies, and he was talking about that, and it was cool. Like Bubble Man is a really cool dude. Like, or the Bubble Bag, not the Bubble Bag dude. That's another guy. Bubble Man is a really cool dude, really down to earth, super duper friendly, and also just loves his hashish, man. Like, he's a cool dude, man. Hey, no worries, Joe Burns. Always happy to answer anytime you got questions, bro. Ask away. Everyone's always welcome to ask anything that they would like in the show, and I will do my darndest to answer it. Thank you, Jason A. I appreciate you trying to show love and support there. I appreciate it, buddy. I love it. It's like one of those, for just 69 cents a day, you could help a Potsquatch afford a new 10. That's less than a cup of coffee. I love it, man. Little Liddy, right now, in terms of my collection, I've got some of my Galactic Citrus Shiva. Whoopsie. I got some Galactic Citrus Shiva here. I've got some Sherbet Mince Apple Fritter Cake. I've got a beautiful Pink Kush. And then recently, my new jam has been, I'm not smoking straight flower. Pretty much everything I'm smoking these days, I'm smoking doobies that have a bunch of crumble in it. So I've been putting, crumble that's testing anywhere from 83 to 94% pure cannabinoids in my joints. And it's certain, at first it was a bit of a curve to it. Like, he was like, man, you smoke a little bit of it, and you're just like, whoa. I'm getting a little bit more used to it now. So I've got a Pink Kush crumble. I've got a Master Kush Ultra crumble. But, oh wait, no. It was two different strains went into that one. So it was a Master Kush Ultra and a Death Bubba that went in together to make that crumble. And then there's the Pink Kush crumble. And then I've also got an El Chapo crumble. So the El Chapo crumble is interesting in that it's a little bit more yellow, where the other ones are quite sort of beige or blonde. Okay. And it's got a very spicy, piney kind of a smell and taste to it. So it's like the El Chapo genuinely really reminds me of some pretty old school chronic. Oh, I feel you, Mr. Green Thumb, Ottawa. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, it is an expensive country. It's always been expensive in Canada. I live in the most expensive part of Canada. Vancouver sucks. I love Vancouver too. Like, there's a reason why I stay here and I spend too much money to live here. Like, I do love Vancouver. I love BC. BC is just such a naturally beautiful place. Whether you're into hiking or outdoor sports or going out, going mudding, going hunting, going fishing, just getting fucked up in the woods, like, I love Vancouver because it's very much a forest city. There's trees everywhere. It's right on the water. It's very expensive though. Like rent alone in this city, let alone anything else, is astonishingly expensive. If I lived in another part of Canada right now, I would own a house. I would have an entire house. We would have a whole lab again. I would have all the equipment I needed, and it would be very easily affordable for me to do that. But BC that's just not the case. But I still stay here. Like, I love Vancouver, and also as an actor, I'm a professional actor, writer, comedian, and filmmaker. For now, where my career sits at, I got to be close to kind of some of the big cities. So I basically can either be close to Toronto or Vancouver. I could technically be close to Montreal too, but I mean, I don't want to go live in Quebec. No offense to Quebec, it's just not my jam, man. Hell yeah, Mud Swat. I'm glad it turned out for you, buddy. Oh, dude, pressing your own rosin's great. I've got a rosin press right here. I don't use it all the time anymore, but it's ready to go when I need it. Liddy, I'm not a shatter guy. I prefer a crumble or a rosin. Now, crumble is still made with typically a petrol-based solvent, okay? But like the guy who's making these, he's won multiple cannabis cups. So the crumble I have is made by a guy who's won a bunch of cannabis cups. And it's basically almost entirely purged out. You'll never get everything out, but it's almost perfectly purged. But I do prefer things that are not using any form of a solvent if I can avoid it. If you can liquefy your CO2, you could use a liquefied CO2 and you can actually blast that way and then create a crumble-like product, and you can actually remove all of that out so there's not going to be any weird trace elements to it. True Aussie Ray, I own a dab rig. I don't really dab though. I just put a shitload of dabs in my joints. I'm a joint guy. I like my bongs too, so I hit my bong, I smoke my joints, I smoke my blunts. But I'm not really a dabber. Have I dabbed before? Yeah, sure. Heck, me and Adam Squatch many years ago won bronze, even though we should have totally won gold, at the Weed Olympics doing a synchronized dabbing routine. But I'm not a dabber. I don't like dabbing. I like the slow, casual token smoke, right? So I'll roll a doob and I'll just put a crap ton of dabs in that, and it'll be good to go. Aw, thank you, Jason A. That's very sweet. I know you're just singing the Bare Naked Ladies. Oh yeah, I'm gonna be getting a bunch of live rosin from Dave from Trim Test and Press. So typically, when I go help with processing for his company, and then they get hired by clients, and so I come in with Dave and I help. So a lot of things get created out of sort of the trim and the keef and all of that kind of comes off stuff. So like that, I got that crumble from Dave. So Dave just picked up a crap ton of live rosin. He was sending me pictures a couple days ago of it, and it looks legit and fire as. So Dave's going to be giving me a bunch of that. So I'm excited for that. When I get that, I'm going to coat a paper in live rosin. Then I'm going to fill my joint with crumble. I'm going to roll it all up in together, and I'm going to see what happens. I like augmenting my joints these days. Walter Wiseman, is it okay if there's a little bit of white mold on hash? No, it's not. Mold, any form of mold is bad. Don't smoke moldy anything. If you smoke mold, it will make you sick. You may be able to get away with smoking it and not get sick. Everybody's constitution is a little different, but I would not smoke anything that has mold on it. If your hash has a bit of mold on it, I would not do that. I guess you could use it in edibles, and that should be safe. It's not necessarily advisable either. That could make you sick too. But I mean, mold is never a great thing to see. Mold is no good. Mold bad. Actually, I just saw a post the other day. Let me see if I can pull this image up for everybody, actually. Give me a second here. Because if I can find this, I think it'll blow your minds. How can I pull this up? Maybe if I go... Bear with me here, everybody. If I can find this image. Oh, no. That's not what I was looking for. Bear with me here. I'm trying to find... Oh, did I find it? No. Well, maybe I don't have access to it. Well, that's lame. Lame. I'll make one last attempt to see if I can find this. No, it's just not here. Well, I'm sorry, everybody. I was going to show you this picture that was just a horrific picture that I saw the other day. And it was from one company. And so anyway, I almost want to say it was like Tilly something Farms or something like that. But anyway, it was a package of weed. And then you open it. And the weed that was in this bloody shit was literally covered in this thick, dark, gross mold. Like it looked like really heavy inset or like bread mold, right? So you know when you got a piece of bread and it gets like super moldy, that's what this weed looked like, and that's coming from a legal source and is being sold over the counter. They haven't done a recall on the damn product at all, which was crazy to me. And I saw that, and it was just so gross. I was just like, "Hi, Miss K." I was blown away. Like I was like, "Man, Jesus Louise, that is disgusting," you know. And that was the picture I was trying to find for everybody to see. And it's just not pulling up all of my messages properly on this, unless I'm missing it somehow. Yeah, it's not syncing everything to here, sadly, so shoot. Well, I would have shown it to you, baby. I would have shown it to all of you, but he's not there. It was gross though. Like it was arguably one of the moldiest things I'd ever seen. And I just looked at it. I was like, "Oh my god." And it was like it came out of the bag that way, right? Like I don't know if it was molding when they packaged it or if they packaged it wet and then that's been growing in the bag or what, but it was disgusting though. But you know, it is what it is. I mean, like let's be honest. Can I say that I'm ever shocked at some of the things coming out of the legal world? I used to. I used to be shocked. And now after just so much lunacy and just idiocy from a lot of these companies that I'm less shocked now when I see weird shit. I still think probably one of the weirdest things that I've to this date, I didn't see it in person. I merely read about it, okay? But like was like all these recalls that were happening earlier on in the legalization of cannabis within Canada, and like the weirdest one was people were finding dead or living bugs in their sack that they bought legitimately from a government store. And like, you know, I've seen all types of moldy crap and this or that, right? But man, to see dead and living bugs in your stash that you just bought from a legal source at a store in that's literally controlled by Health Canada, man, that's fucked. It's so fucked. Leave it to the government of Canada to, you know, sell people dead and living bugs in their bag of pond. Well, I mean, no, yeah, that was my friend Sue Ann Jansen. That was powdery mildew. She had the worst PM I've ever seen on a plant, and she was like, "Oh my God, look at how crystally my plant is." And I was like, "Girl, that is PM. That is not that is not crystal. You will fucking make yourself so sick." Um, she's no longer with us. Rest in peace, Sue Ann. She didn't die from smoking the PM. Uh, she accidentally overdosed, but um, you know, God rest you, Sue Ann. But yeah, like it was a crazy time back then. Um, Okay, so Dan Stutzky, once mold is in pot, you can't really remove it from the flower. It's just not how it works. I know how, like, you know, Jorge Cervantes for years was trying to perpetuate that you could do an H2O2 bud wash to remove powdery mildew. That is complete bullshit. It is not true. You are still smoking PM. It is merely removing PM from the exterior of the plant. Once a plant gets PM, it is in the buds. You cannot wash that out from the inside of a bud. Just not how science works. So where Jorge Cervantes, in many ways, yeah, great OG dude, taught a lot of people some basic stuff. Also, the guy taught a lot of like misconceptions that were just wrong. But doesn't take away from who he was in the history, right? We just know better now. We've learned more now, right? So once PM's there, you can't wash it out. That's just bullshit. But, you know, I have seen high-end distillate machines. So if you've got something that's moldy, you can remove the cannabinoids from it and remove them with a very high-end distillate machine. So you can create a distillate that's safe from moldy product. That is totally feasible because of the nature of using the pH or the acidic nature, okay, of the actual skins themselves of the cannabinoids. So you're just removing out these cannabinoids and terpenes individually, right? So using a machine like that allows you to identify and segregate and remove things, you can produce a safe smokable product from something that's moldy. But also a machine like that costs hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it's not something that you're just going to find, at your local, Home Depot or something. You found a larva? What kind of larva? Larva of what? Oh yeah, dude, Mr. Green Thumb on Ottawa, totally, bro. Like a lot of that old school hash, the way it was being made, there was bugs in it, there was dirt in it, plant particulate, hair, the amount of cellular residue from people's skin that was in it, pretty astonishing. That's actually where, in many ways, I kind of prefer my New Age Temple Ball style of hash making that I'm doing now, because at least I know what's in it, and I know I'm not smoking a bunch of other gross shit. um, But yeah, we all definitely smoked a few bugs and some hair and some dirt and some other things back in the day with that old school hash, man. Oh, good, Miss K's Garden. I loved that they loved my beard oil. Did they get the Squatch Stank one? That's my favorite scent on our CBD beard oil line. I like the Squatch Stank, and it's like I said, it's tested very well with the ladies too. The ladies seem to really like the scent of Squatch Stank. So, you know, yeah, there you go. They got the Squatch Stank. That one's my favorite. Now, mind you, the cedarwood and whiskey beard oil that we have is really good too. Don't get me wrong; it's really nice. But I prefer that Squatch Stank. That Squatch Stank. That one's personally custom made. Took us 19 or 20 different tries to get that one right. But then we finally nailed it. It was good. Amy Nagalio Washnia. AOG, how do I shave my ass hair? I'm like low-key scared, not gonna lie. Well, it's a different type of bush we're talking about trimming there, bud. But my only real recommendation to you is carefully. Very, very carefully. Maybe ask a friend to help. They'd have to be a very close friend, obviously. Be careful. Yeah, Dan, I've smoked all kinds of things. I've smoked things that definitely weren't just weed growing up and back in the day, too. It's scary. I mean, that's the thing, right? You never know, right? So that's where, like, you know, having someone you can trust is a good thing. And that's where also, too, the only true way to know what's in your weed, the only true way to know what you're smoking, the only true way to keep things up completely above board, okay, is to grow your own cannabis. Grow your own cannabis. It's the only true way to keep yourself safe. At least you know what's going in that shit, you know what I'm saying? Hey, what's up, Aaron Rock? Good to see you too, man. I don't even know what that says. True, huh? Can you type in English so I understand what you're saying? Thank you. You got 8 plants. Nice. What kind of plants you got? I don't even know what to call you. I will call you interesting symbol in your profile picture. No, I thought that was your name at first. So I thought True Ha was actually your name. And then I got confused. I feel like your name is maybe being displayed after what you're writing. Is your language something that has reflexive grammar, so it kind of switches like this? You have your two wheat titties growing near my jalapenos and marigold plants to keep the pests away. Hell yeah. Now, one thing to remember though, okay, so marigolds are great for deterring a lot of pests. They will attract spider mites though. So just keep a mindful eye in terms of spider mites if spider mites are known in your generalized area of where you live. So Jonathan, no, I wouldn't use diatomaceous earth as a spray. Um, Diatomaceous earth, where in its dry form, does function really well to kind of like cut up the soft tissues of larval bugs and other types of things. Um, if you're going to use something that is going to hold its shape when wet, using a very finely ground crustacean meal will still be able to be used while it's wet. But diatomaceous earth, not so much. I hate the heat. Jansen, that sounds horrible. Anything past 24 degrees Celsius, I hate. I hate anything past that. All right, so cool symbol in your profile picture. Good question. How do you know when it's a male? Well, male glands and female glands are obviously going to exhibit differently. Okay, watching for our pre-glands is really what we're looking out for from the get-go or the earlier growth on the plant. Okay, but typically the first onset of an initial gendering expression on a male gland is you're going to see like a tiny little, almost apricot-shaped gland. Now, I have seen, like I said earlier in the show, I've seen apricot-shaped glands that ended up throwing a pistol, so don't automatically assume it's a male. And it's going to pop up, and then what we're going to be watching for, peace out, Miss K, is you got to watch if it has a couple of other friends show up. So if that gland has a few other little friends that pop up next to it, that male. Also, if you see that little apricot gland raise itself up on a little stalk or a neck, lifting away from the nodal segment, that is also an initial exhibiting or gender expression of a male gland. So those are the main things you're going to be looking for spotting early signs or early expressions of male glands on your cannabis plant. I hope that helps. Yeah, so like interesting shape profile picture. If you see like a couple of them together, or if they start clustering too, males. Also raising up on that neck and then it's going to fall down, male. If it looks like it starts off as an apricot. As it develops, it's almost going to look kind of like a pumpkin, almost in a weird way, I guess you could say. Maybe like an elongated pumpkin where it's going to have segmentations to it like that. So when those pop, right, then it's going to open up like almost like a little flower, and that's what's going to create the pollen that comes out and knocks your plants up, okay? So if you see any of those open, you've gotten that plant to the point where it's starting to nut. Like, unless you're trying to make seeds and knock up everyone's plants for like 16 kilometers around you if you're growing outside, kill that bastard. True, Liddy. But I would say, though, um, it's best to not try to identify males by looking for female sexual expression on the glands. What we're learning and what we should be doing is looking for the actual initial male gland expression, okay? And that's how we're going to stay on top of it better, right? If we eventually see, both happening, then we've got a traditional hermaphroditic reality that has genuinely got both sets of glands growing and exhibiting on the plant. Typically, that is kind of rare. You don't really see that a lot. Like a true hermaphrodite's actually quite rare, where you'll have them independently expressing their glands in their own localized areas. Typically, what we see is later stress-triggered onset hermaphroditism, where it can grow male glands then, but typically we're going to see things like nanners, nanner clusters, or even pollen balls. Pollen ball is different than a nut. I've even seen them get huge on a plant. And if that thing falls and hits the ground, it explodes and it sends shit everywhere. They grew 2 meters tall. Oh, I'm sorry, dude. Well, it is the way it is. I mean, but dude, if you want to send in a picture of some of the glands, got a really close picture of the glands, you can send me an email and I can give you my 2 cents on it. I'm always happy to help. Like if you're at home and you are struggling to know what the gender of your plant is, email me at potsquatch420@gmail.com. Put in the subject, is this male or female? I will take a look at it and I will always happily try to help identify what the gender of the plant is. I know for newer growers, this is very scary. It's something that takes time for us to learn. What's up, warriors for Christ? It takes time for us to learn these things and get comfortable with these things. And that there's no shame in that, by the way, either, everybody. Like, it's totally okay that it takes time to learn things and feel comfortable with things. I've been doing this for a very long time. I've been growing now for... Fuck, I'm getting old. Basically 24 years now. So it's like, and I've seen a lot of things. I've done a lot of things. Like, even in my younger years, when I had been growing, like I'd only been growing maybe for like 10 or 15 years, I was the guy that guys who've been doing it twice as long as me brought in when they couldn't fix an issue and they didn't know what was going on. Like, I was that weird guy they brought in to help and to try to fix their crops and fix their plants. I was that weird pot nerd kid, right? That they would bring in. And it just comes in time. Practice, time, research, reading, fucking around, and that's the best way to learn, right? And I've always said, and I'll say it again, we learn more from a bad grow than we do a good grow, right? Success is great. Having a great run is always wonderful, okay? But mistakes, miscalculations, accidents, that's where we learn the most from. That's where we truly are learning our shit, you know what I'm saying? So when a mistake happens, don't beat yourself up too much. A little bit's not a bad thing, right? Learn where you made the mistake, reinforce that in your head, right? But don't crucify yourself over it either, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't crucify yourself over it. Just learn and move forward and become a bigger, better grower for it. You know what I'm saying? Hey, OG Trev, much love, thank you, and respect back to you, buddy. And hope everything's all good out in Chilliwack. Nice, Liddy. I started at 12 myself. Yeah, dude, I've been doing this a long time. I've had UBC's approached me of being a guest lecturer in November at UBC in terms of cannabis cultivation. I've been consulting companies and consulting grows for many, many years now. I've had different companies approach me about writing a book. Maybe one day. I don't want to do that right now, but like, I know a lot. But I'm always learning. I'm always learning something new. I'm always trying something new, right? The true grower is a forever student, okay? There is no becoming a master. Technically speaking, in the world of cannabis, if you're someone who uses that qualification or that label, I'm definitely what a master would be considered. But I hate that term. Any grower that I know and respect, none of us use that term. We all hate that term. It's not a true term because it doesn't matter how good you get at something, you can always get better. It doesn't matter how much you can always learn more. There's new strains, new technologies, new techniques, new things being realized all the time, right? So always keep an open mind. Like I said, the true grower is a forever student. Keeping an open mind means you're open to new ideas, new expressions, and new potential hypotheticals. But it also doesn't mean you automatically negate the things you know. But don't hold on to something thinking that's the only way. See what I'm saying? Grain of salt, and you can figure it out. And that's the best way to approach your grows and approach learning cannabis and growing cannabis. Keep an open mind, baby. What term? I just came here. Well, welcome, Eric Cheeto. I'm not quite sure what we're referencing. I was talking... now I'm getting myself confused. What was I even talking about? Oh, I was talking about male glandular development earlier, if that's what you were referencing. Leafy, larvae. I mean, leafy would be weird to me, Eric Cheeto, because it's not necessarily actually leafy, though. It's just having non-dense fall seed sacs stacking on top of each other. So there's not really a lot of leaf per se to larvae bud. Larv, funnily enough, isn't even, we don't even use that term in Canada. That's an American term. Funny thing is, we don't even have a word for it either, though. We just go, damn, that ain't dense at all. We don't have a term like larf for it. Like, that's a very American term. I mean, we use the term now. I think it's become more colloquial for Canadians now. But I remember when I first heard the word larf years ago through talking to some of my American grower friends, and I was like, larf, what the fuck are you talking about? And then I realized that that's what they're calling just not dense shit, or secondaries or underdeveloped buds. But I don't know if I could call it leafy, though, because it's not leafy. Like, if you say leafy, it sounds like, to me, like a plant that needs to have defoliation done. Do you know what I'm saying? It doesn't register quite right in my head. But I'm a Canadian. We don't even have a word for it. So Jonathan, if you want to do your own aeroponic system, I would say 100% it's a good idea because it's a great learning experience. I've built them many a time myself. I've built aeroponic, aquaponic, hydroponic systems. I always come back to dirt. My favorite way to grow is dirt, and I will always be a dirt grower. That is my happy place. But I think it's a great learning experience. And if it's something that works for you and that's the way you're happy producing your plants, then do it. I fully support that. It's not the way I would go about it in the long run. Aquaponics, aeroponics, hydroponics, they can all be quite finicky, but once you learn to dial it in, it's not too bad. I will say, though, I think the best tasting and smelling cannabis comes from soil. I would arguably say, too, typically I find stronger weed typically comes from soil as well. That is my opinion. Have I ever tested that? No. It is just me speaking as a professional, from my personal experience. But hey, to each their own, though. Like I said, 1,001 highways to the same destination, man. You know what I'm saying? What's up, dudest Lenny? How do you use fertilizer? Well, basic nutritional requirements are required by your plants. It depends on what fertilizer you're using. If you're talking about organics, if you're talking about a living soil concept, if we're talking about using a salt-based bottle feed, every nutrient application is different. The basic rule of thumb, in general, is cannabis can actually eat almost as much as you want to give it eventually, but you've got to build it up to that. You can't just sort of nuke it or you'll burn the shit out of it, but you can slowly get it used to having much higher levels of feeds. If you're just starting out as a grower, I would say just start with using a salt-based 3-part system. Get yourself a secondary like ProCal or like a calcium magnesium supplement, and those 4 basic things is all you need to start and be initially successful. There's a lot of little nuanced products and 1,001 things. And don't get me wrong, like I love some of the weird secondary products out there. But don't jump right into that. Start with like a 3-part. Start with a 3-part system and like a calcium magnesium supplement, and then go from there. Well, I feel you, Eric Cheeto, and that's totally okay. I mean, certain things that come and go, like languages change of how we talk about things in the cannabis world, or any world for that matter. One of the words that irritates the hell out of me, because I find it pretentious and elitist, and it's just silly, and it sounds so stupid every time someone says it, is when we call it cultivars. Well, this cultivar, or this exotic cultivar, or this cultivar. I'm like, oh, fuck off, it's weed. Like, we didn't need to have a pretentious word thrown in there. So that's one thing that's always annoyed me. When everyone started going, oh, cultivars, I'm like, oh, fuck off, it's weed. We don't need to sound like a bunch of elitist assholes to talk about it. Do you know what I mean? But whatevs. Like, I'll even use the word occasionally now because it's what all the young kids are saying. And if I don't use some of their words, they get confused, right? So, but it is a silly word. I've always found it kind of a funny one, right? But whatever, to each their own. Language is always fun. Chaley Elm Chally, if you're asking me, we don't really get into politics of that nature on this show. I support people not dying. I would say both sides on that one have war crimes and have genocide and both sides' hands are stained with blood. And this is my comment on it. The funny thing about the argument is there's three different religious groups: Christians, Muslims, and people of Judaism, and they're all cousins of each other. They all have the same seminal foundational teachings as each other. They're basically, in many ways, the same fucking religion. And the fact is, you're all cousins of each other. Stop fucking fighting. Get the fuck over it. It's so stupid. So I say I support life and I don't support death. And I think both sides are guilty of war crimes. And both sides need to fuck off and treat each other with some respect and learn to get along. There's a wonderful Palestinian and Jewish restaurant here in Vancouver. If they can figure out how to work together, pretty sure it's possible. It sounds like a damn problem over there. So guys, stop fighting, stop killing each other. That's my 2 cents on the whole thing. But we don't get into politics in this show. Or I try not to. Sometimes I get a little ranty, but it happens. Sorry, everybody. I had to answer that one, and I believe I answered it in a safe way for all. So, now I'm moving on. What are my thoughts on 9-leaf plants? I find most plants will go as high as even 11. I've seen even 13-leaf plants. Some plants just don't do it. Some plants will do it with a long enough vegetation window. I'd say no real thoughts either way. I'd say the main indicator when you see a fully expressed plant with a lot of leaves to it, my only real comment would be that it had a really large vegetation window. That would be my thoughts on it. See you later, dude. The only thing I'll say to you, Jonathan, I will also say molasses. Be careful using molasses late in flower, okay? One, because a lot of nitrogen, you don't need that in flower. Yes, it has easily accessible sugars, and that's great. But if you don't cut out molasses, out of your flowering window, if you keep going till close to the end on that one, all you're going to smell and taste is molasses in your buds. So just be careful. Just be careful. Right? And it's funny, we all have our own reactions to certain turns of phrase or language within sort of within the world of cannabis, right? But everybody is allowed to do that. Sorry, everybody. I'm now just catching up. I feel like I fell behind again, which is very common for me in these shows. So molasses on its own may not be great, but I do love me some gingerbread, man. You know what I'm saying? Molasses up in that gingerbread are good. I have heard of soil candy. I've heard of bud candy. I've heard of a lot of different things. I've never tried the worm tea from Happy Bunny Farms or Farms or whatever it is. Never heard of the company even. But the thing is, there's a lot of nutrient companies out there, everybody. And the thing is, I found a company that makes products that I really like, so I typically stick with them. I'm a Green Planet guy. Go Green Planet. If Green Planet didn't exist, I'd probably use Advanced Nutrients, but I prefer Green Planet. I think Green Planet is a superior nutrient system. I think they're a superior nutrient company. They're also a little bit more affordable typically than Advanced Nutrients are. So I'm a big fan of Green Planet. That's my happy place, and I love the diverse line that they've created in terms of cannabis feeds. Eric, so again, I've never worked with the product. I have worked with a lot of bat guanos, okay, and playing around with different bat guanos from different parts of the world with different dietary sources, whether it's insects or different fruits. And then some would be, great for the vegetation window. Some are great for the flowering window, and then that changes all left, right, and up and down. And yeah, so I played around with it a lot. But typically, I'm just buying straight up bat guano in a bag if I'm doing anything with it. Yeah. Yeah, Jonathan, I mean, dude, yeah, right? Having a 15-piece set is weird to me. If they've actually marketed it as a 15-piece set, that's a little silly. Because you don't need to use everything, right? But, like, I love Green Planet's three-part line, and then I use their ProCal product. Other products of theirs that I typically will incorporate into my feeds are Massive Bloom formulation for flower. I also like their resin product. I like their VitaThrive, which is a vitamin supplement. Um, Liquid Gold or Liquid Weight. No, it's Liquid Weight. That was another one, which is basically just a bunch of easily accessible sugars, essentially. So you're turbocharging the easily accessible sugars in your plant. But yeah, they got a lot of great products. They've got a lot of good products at Green Planet, and I find they are the most forgiving and gentlest nutrients as well to my plants, while at the same time still very much providing the inherent nutrition required for my plant to be a happy little plant. It's a local company here too. They're locally made. They're here in Vancouver, BC. Well, technically, I think they're out in Surrey, which is part of Greater Vancouver. Whatever, potato. But yeah, no, I'm a big fan of Green Planet. Oh, Jansen. One picture taken out of context and blown up on the internet. Now, come on now, bud. You're better than that. Don't go there, bud. Oh, totally. And I wholeheartedly agree with you, Roman Reckless there, but like, I mean, I love doing my base system that I'll use, but then I'm always screwing around with things. I mean, one day it would be nice to have the space to kind of get back to doing some super soils and doing some other like things and making a bunch of teas and stuff. And I'd like to get back to that one day. Um, it's just not really on the books for me right now. It's just easier for me in the limited space that I have to be hitting with those bottle newts and just rocking and rolling that way. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, yeah. Well, guys, it is funny, and I know what we're all talking about. Let's just not go there, though, okay? Let's just not go there. Maybe he just really needed to go, okay? Benefit of the doubt, guys. Benefit of the doubt. Maybe he just had to go. Hey, man, we've all been there. We've all had accidents at times, okay? Let's just leave it alone. Oh, fuck. Well, how long's this show? Well, luckily for us, Eric Cheeto, Mr. Canuck doesn't really teach people much of anything. It's basically the same video for the last number of years. And again, he's not a bad dude. From what I've been told is he's a bit of an arrogant fuck. Whatevs. From Ontario. I'm from Ontario, but I moved to BC, so I'm a BC boy now. I've lived here longer than I lived there. And no beef at all there, man. He's got some great production value to his videos. I'll give him that. But he doesn't teach anyone anything. And he basically grows autos. Like, I mean, he just grows autos. And like, you know what? If you're an auto grower, cool. Like, if you're happy being an auto grower, I fully support your right to grow autos. But there's so much more to cannabis than just an auto. And like for me, I don't know, personally, like I think it's more valuable to make a video or do a live stream or connect with my fans and my students to teach them something new, change things up. Just don't do the same tired ass grow every bloody time. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. That's just my opinion. But again, 1,001 highways to the same destination. So I guess one could argue there's room for all types of cannabis YouTubers. And I'm certainly very much my own type of cannabis YouTuber doing my own thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with other people doing their things. I might have comments and opinions on some of it, but I'm a professional comedian. I get paid to piss people off. So I'm allowed to run my mouth a bit and have some thoughts, I think. And I've never mean anyone. The only time you'll ever see me publicly as the Potsquatch being mean or sticking it to somebody is when they're a bully or they're a dick. And they're being mean to people. I don't like bullies, and I don't like people picking on people, and I don't like people being mean. So I take great issue with that. That is like the polar opposite of what the cannabis community is meant to be. It's the polar opposite of what our community as the Potsquatches is meant to be. So like that's the only thing I really will ever take an issue with. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, no. I mean, Roman Reckless, like a lot of my stuff used to be that way anyway. I mean, I'd say it's still kind of that way. I mean, on the next grow, like I fully intend on working a lot more on my plants and doing lots of chores and kind of having this immaculate, perfect run. Now, I say that now going into it, we'll see what actually happens, right? Sometimes the thought and the intent is different than the actual run of your grow, but we'll see what happens. Ontario has always been unterrible in my mind. I remember I moved to BC the summer I turned 12, and I lived back in Ontario briefly with my first wife when I was in my early 20s. I'm from London. I was born in Burlington, Ontario, everybody. I grew up in London, Ontario. I grew up in Old South. Went to the Lester B. Pearson School for the Arts. Um, I'm not the world's biggest fan of Ontario. It's not my favorite place. I'm from Ontario. I'm allowed to not like it. I prefer BC. I definitely prefer BC. There's a reason why I've accepted that I may never financially get ahead until my movie career blows up. But I'll take that because I like living in BC. Most of my family's in Ontario. My mom, my sisters, they're all back there now. They all live in the Kitchener-Waterloo area. I've still got a lot of friends and family in London, Ontario. I got a lot of friends in Hamilton. I got a lot of friends out and all over Ontario. But Ontario's not my cup of tea. Um, you know, but to be fair, no matter where I go, there's going to be stuff that irritates me. And that's one thing. Like, I've lived all over the world, too. Well, okay, not all over the world. I've lived in Europe in a bunch of places, and I've lived in Canada a bunch of places. But no matter where you go, there's always going to be something that pisses you off, and there's always going to be stuff that irritates you. And I mean, every place has good things and bad places and bad things to it, and every place has a special nature to it. Let's go with that. You know what I'm saying? But 100%, Jonathan. I am 100% super lucky to live in Canada. I would not want to live anywhere else. Honestly, yeah. There's a couple places in the world I'd be curious to try living, maybe, if I could with my career. So maybe when I make it as an actor and I don't have to live landlocked in order for projects and work to kind of come to me, I'd love to try living in some of the Nordic places. I'd love to check out Sweden. I'd love to check out Norway, Denmark. That'd be cool, But overall, seeing the world around me and the shit that's happening everywhere in the world right now, fuck, I'm so lucky to live in Canada. Canada is one of the last true strongholds of actual normalcy. And yeah, weird shit's happening here, but not like anywhere else. So yeah, I'm very happy living in Canada, and I consider myself very lucky to live here. And I'm very appreciative to living in general in Canada. Oh, the quiet witch is here. What's up, girl? Still kicking cancer's ass, girl? Sorry, I'm just reading now. Jonathan, I wouldn't say Canada's difficult to thrive in. I'd say Vancouver and BC is. But if you're smart and you know how to get ahead. I think a lot of people don't live with realistic expectations of what finances are and saving money and not incurring debt and how you get ahead in life. I've just been lucky enough that I've been able to figure out a lot of things and you know, understand how a lot of the system works. So for me, like, I feel like I can definitely get ahead in Canada. I mean, one thing I will say that I'm frustrated about is I'm not loving the new capital gains tax that's being implemented. It doesn't affect me. I don't make anywhere near enough money currently, but the second, like, my first big feature film, which I'm making right now, and I'll be down in Costa Rica shooting in November, and it should come out in theaters early 2026. If that movie does really well, like, I'm going to get a fat paycheck. And I'm very not impressed with the government wanting to try to take 67% of it. But I also have really good tax people that I'm going to pay a lot of money to make sure the government doesn't get the taxes. I'm going to use the rules of the system back at the government. The government does it to me. I'm going to use it back to them. And this is where, if you're just a normal person, which basically that's what I am typically, like, in terms of the amount of money I make, right? Like, you don't really need to worry about things. Your taxes aren't that hard. There's not much shit you can do anyway. But once you go to a certain level of money, there are a lot of ways to kind of manipulate the system and fight back at the system. So the fact is, though, where I'm frustrated at the government currently with this new capital gains tax, I am also appreciative of the government system that's put in place, because there's a lot of loopholes. There's a lot of things I can do to protect my money. And there's a lot of things I could do to fight back, right? So, potato, bit of this, bit of that. Do you know what I'm saying? I hope that makes sense. Yes, we do. And Jason knows. Jason works in the government, so he's my eyes and ears. Also, too, when I have questions about things, I'm just like, hey, Jason, how does this work again? Yeah, I mean, Niagara Falls is super beautiful, super cool, Jonathan. I would say, Canada's one of those countries where we've got a little bit of everything, whether you want to be at a rainforest, you want to be in a desert, you want to be out in Antarctica, or like, and seeing like frozen wastelands. Like, I mean, you can see kind of shit, 'cause we're not Antarctica, it's its own continent, but you know what I'm saying? Like, and so it's cool. Like, I mean, we've got a little bit of everything, right? So, and like the wildlife is here. Like 97%, 98% of our country is still wilderness in Canada, right? We haven't really moved into much of it. Most of it's still like the great unknown. And so that's really beautiful. And I love sometimes just disappearing out in the woods, going for a hike, going for a swim out in glacial. There's like thousands of glacial lakes all throughout the mountains here. It's just so beautiful. You ever see a moose in person? Jesus Christ, the thing's an armor-plated meat tank. There's so much beauty and so much cool shit to do here. Candy cane, I know actually a fair amount about New Zealand. I have a lot of friends in New Zealand. Gaz is from New Zealand. My only issue with New Zealand is it's a very beautiful place, but your laws are fucked. And the way you're treating cannabis people and cannabis medical patients and cannabis people in general as criminals and destroying lives, I have a big issue with how New Zealand's handling that. Definitely would say that. Bear with me here, everybody. I'm just reading. Sorry, I'm still reading. Sorry, here, I'm still reading, everybody. So WB Grower says, if I did 16 ounces of smalls to 6 pounds of butter, assuming a percentage of THC with a 4-pound butter return after strained, I think what you're trying to talk about is talking about, in general, active cannabinoid percentages in terms of your edibles. And I mean, you can have a rough calculation, but unless you're working with a true distillate where you actually know the active cannabinoids, or technically you could test a batch of flower material and then utilize that to give yourself a rough, approximation of what you're doing, that's doable. But honestly, unless you're working with like a distillate with a lab test, you're never really going to know. Basically, you got to remember that, okay, most cannabis is going to be testing anywhere from 12 to 22% active cannabinoids. So if you have a rough idea of what that cannabis actually is in terms of its active cannabinoids, So let's say something is testing at 20% active cannabinoids. That means you can give yourself a rough 20% of actual activity per gram. Okay, so like let's say you put in an ounce, so that would be 0.2 of a gram, or 200 milligrams of active cannabinoids to a gram. Do the rough math that out. Then you would divide that into the portions of the butter that you're doing. That'll give you a rough idea, and you can kind of think about it that way. But again, it's not exact. Like it'll just be a rough at best way to do that. Mudswat, in order to make water-soluble THC, you need to use a hypersonic emulsifier, which is then going to help you overcome the basic inherent nature of partial hydrophobia of cannabinoids. So you're going to need a sonic emulsifier to break that down in order to make it soluble into water. No, I feel you, Eric Cheeto. Jonathan, I'm going to tell you that almost nothing ever breaks 30%. It is so rare, and almost everything out there is a lie. It is just a true factoid of reality when it comes to cannabis. Almost all cannabis tests nowhere near 30. Does it exist? Yes. Has it happened before? Yes. The highest THC saturation content of any cannabis I've actually seen and know to be true, Kootenai Gold, certain samples from Nelson, BC, 43%. But almost all cannabis is never going to go anywhere near 30. It does happen, but it's almost no cannabis does that. Most cannabis tests 8 to 18% THC, and that is just a true fact of weed. Anyone who tells you different is a moron. See, I'm making a declarative statement. Rarely do I do that, but that's just the reality. So it's like, for example, Dave was running a mobile, because he's got his lab's mobile, and he was at an event, and so he was testing a bunch of local farmer stuff. So this one guy walks in all full of himself, arrogant piece of shit, and he's like, goes up to Dave, he's like, all 7 or all 9 or whatever it was of these are all over 30%, and his highest strain, maybe he had one that was 21 or 22, and all the rest tested 12 to 14. The guy was so mad, he basically tried to fight Dave out in the parking lot. I'm like, oh no. And Dave's like, look, man, I'm sorry. It's just science, bro. I'm sorry to break the truth to you that you've been fed a lie your whole life and you've falsely inflated your own ego. The funny thing is people who get butthurt about THC levels, though, show that they have no inherent understanding of cannabis, because high THC levels don't mean dick, really, at the end of the day. There's over 468 psychoactive compounds, cannabinoids, terpenes, and etc. within the cannabis plant, naturally occurring. Some things will only have a few cannabinoids in them. Some things will have a bajillion cannabinoids, okay? And THC level doesn't mean shit. Like my Sasquatch strain only hits 18% THC and it's 22% CBD, but that shit is almost narcotic, man. Anyone who's tried that strain is like, what the hell was that? I've never smoked anything like that. But it doesn't hit crazy, stupid high numbers. Now, 18 is still pretty high, but like, it's not that high. But like, so super duper high THC doesn't mean shit, everyone. Like, you've been fed a lie. It's an obsessive bullshit, cockamamie, prick waving, arrogant, thing that is misrepresented continuously. And it's used to sell you shit that you probably shouldn't buy, maybe. Like, I mean, it's just a lie. It's just a lie. Yeah, so Jonathan, actually the strongest bud you've ever heard of, or you've ever had. Yeah, so the strongest, I've had Kootenai Gold, but on the books, the strongest weed that has ever existed is Kootenai Gold from Nelson, BC. And it, like I said, there have been samples that have hit 43 on that. And it's a weird looking bud too, everybody. And the funny thing is, though, there'll be some weeds that don't even look fire. Like they're not that tricky, they're not that crazy. And then you've got another weed that like looks super tricky, like it'd be like death's destruction. But then you actually test it and it's not. It's pretty weak. And then the shit that doesn't look that good is like off the chart strong. So it's deceptive. Like a lot of stuff's really deceptive. Yeah, see, Jonathan, that sounds totally where a Girl Scout cookies should be testing. Typically, I see Girl Scout cookies strains they're typically going to be hitting like a 17 to a 21. Mudswat, are you sure it wasn't actually accidentally PCP? I'm just joking. I'm just joking. Dude, Jonathan, 17% for your first grow is great, bro. That's awesome. That's still stronger than most people weed. Yes, I agree, WB growers. Remove the fatty compounds from your butter. Clarify that shit. It'll make a better thing for you at the end. Walter Wiseman, simply put, you can't. You can't really. If you live in Canada, you can do a mail-in test. I'm trying to remember what my buddy charged for it. So my buddy's company, you can mail things in, and he will send you a full lab report back on it, a true lab report from his company. And he offers a mail order service in Canada. We're actually going to be having on the show. We're going to be doing some tests. We're going to be doing some fun stuff, and he's going to be, making this. So, but it's available currently in Canada. Technically, if it somehow managed to show up at his place, I'm sure he would do a test from something from somewhere else. But I don't do that. Don't send shit over borders. That's bad. That'll get you into trouble. But for any Canadian, if you ever have a plant that you've done that you want to test and you want to test your finished product, just send it to Dave at Dave's Trim and Test and Press here in BC. I'm pretty sure I've convinced him to give people a little discount there too for the Potsquatches who want to try out the service. So, yeah. What's up, that guy channel 2? Good to see you, buddy. Yeah, so you got to remember, though, everyone, at-home testing kits, they don't really work. To most dispensaries and most places, the equipment that they have for actual testing isn't very good. So you're not getting a true report. They don't have a huge profile of the terpenes and cannabinoid, actually. And their machines don't really go that exact on things, right? Where my boy Dave at Trim Test and Press, he's the real McCoy. He's got the real shit, the real gear, and he actually will give you a real report. Dave is so dedicated to giving you real numbers, he will risk getting himself beat up from arrogant growers and getting his ass kicked out in the parking lot. Because that's how dedicated Dave from Trim Test and Press is at providing realistic numbers to people and honest numbers in this world of lies. I love that. Jason's like, hey, mail your stuff to me. I'll test it for you. Oh, smoke's good, bro. That's funny. Budsville, USA, if you can get it tested at a real place and actually get legit numbers on your stuff, it's really cool. Part of what's really cool about testing your cannabis, everybody, and watching it is it really helps you to dial in your grow, dial in how you're approaching certain genetics, okay? And I'm going to teach you a fun fact that I didn't even know up until recently. The mother of all cannabinoids is CBG. CBG is what turns into all other cannabinoids. It is the mother cannabinoid, the origin point, the mother cannabinoid that then becomes everything else. So for example, if you test something and it still has a lot of CBG in it, that means that CBG has not had a chance to convert into other secondary forms as cannabinoids, which means you harvested too early. So the cool thing is when you start testing your cannabis and stuff like that, and that augmenting your grow, augmenting your approach, it really helps you to fuck around and dial in your growing a lot, right? And it's super cool. It just adds a whole new level of thought, process, and approach to the cannabis you're growing and producing. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah, so Budsville, USA, my buddy at Trim Test and Press, I'm trying to remember what it costs for a test. It was I think it's $80 he charges, or it might be $60. It might be $80. I feel like it's $80. It's $60 or $80, and that's Canadian, so whatever that is in American. But it's like $60 or $80 from Trim Test and Press. You mail it into them. They run the test. They give you a full write-up and report on it, and it's a legit, true, very exact, very clear, very in-depth report on your stuff. I actually might have a report from the company on something here. Whoopsie. This is just a list of fun, different types of cannabinoids. Here, bear with me, everybody, for a second. I'm seeing if I may or may not have a test in here. No. This is different standard cannabinoids, minor modules, THC, CBC, blah, blah, blah. Maybe I don't. Well, anyway, we're going to be doing videos with Dave, so don't worry. Everybody's going to get a chance to learn the intricacies and nuanced realities of getting cannabis tested, and we'll be talking about all of that on the show eventually, and it'll be dank. I'm super stoked about that video to make it for everybody, because it's super duper cool. Thanks, Budsville. I mean, go back and watch some of the earlier grows. I miss having a lot of space. Back in the early hood days, we did a lot of fun things in the channel. I'm hoping to have a few more tents going here. I mean, go through a divorce. We got to sell the house, right? So I'm hoping in the next couple of years at least, because I mean, it's I'm not going to say next month, because that's just not a realistic assumption. But I'm hoping to get a bigger grow space at some time in the next few years for everybody, and to really kind of start doing a bunch of fun things. You know what I'm saying? Jonathan, you cannot, an AI tester utilizing a camera to test cannabis. I call bullshit. I don't think that's possible. I genuinely don't think that is actually possible. I think it's based on false variables, and I just don't think that would work. I don't think those are real. So I just don't waste your money on it, because it's just not a thing. I genuinely don't think it's a thing. Okay, here. But I'll show you everybody this. So this is Trim, Test, and Press, everybody. Mail-in testing. Check out trimtestpress.com. It's my buddy's company. And they are a legal company here in Canada. They work with Health Canada. They work with home growers. They work with anybody. They work with a lot of Indigenous companies as well. And so basically they're a lab testing service, and they offer a lot of things. So they also do consulting or helping with automation of processing and all of that kind of stuff. And then, they also, can help you dial in extract productions and stuff. So he consults a lot of companies and does a lot of stuff like that. So candy cane, honestly, to be fair, I don't think the galactic citrus shiva is that high, to be fair. I think it's got a bunch of weird cannabinoids and terpenes that are less common. It is very functional. It's not like a macrame yourself to the couch kind of a strain. So honestly, 12 to 16 maybe. I don't think there's a super high THC level on it. But it's definitely good. It's very tasty. There's a lot of interesting cannabinoids in there, I think, that are maybe not as common. I definitely think it has an interesting terp profile for sure. And that's where I'm curious to have the terps on it tested, really. But I wouldn't see it. It smokes like a very functional chronic to me. I think it's very, very good for the, regular smoker on the daytime. I think it's really great for medical patients. I think it's really great for people who are newer to cannabis as well. And I think that's where I would see the galactic citrus shiva really having a place in the world, shall we say, of cannabis. But I would be shocked if it tested super high. I would be shocked if it did, because it doesn't feel like it doesn't smoke like that to me, honestly. So, oh, that's okay, Budsville, man. It's all good. Shit happens, bro. I've been through two divorces already, man. Bring on the next ex-wife. But what I've learned this time is if I ever get married again, prenup. If you won't sign a prenup, you ain't marrying me. So sorry, anyone who has interest out there. I've been through too many divorces now. I actually don't know if I'll ever get married again. I may just have friends and lovers and be a bit of a whore. Life is easier that way. Yeah, companionship, having a partner in crime for life would be great, but I just don't know if it's impossible to actually have. I know some people get it. I just think percentage-wise, it's so rare to actually find in this day and age, and with weird shifting sociological gender norms and assumptions for both sides of gender and people in relationships, and um, it seems like more stress than it's worth to me. So, you know, that's kind of my take on relationships these days, if I'm being honest. Hey, no worries, Jonathan. Um, yeah, everybody, you know what? It's been a long show. I'm shocked that my brain is still functioning right now. Because, like, I remember being like 15 minutes into the show going, whoa, we're only 15 minutes into the show? Shit. And now we're sitting at 179 minutes and 33 seconds into the show. So, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, if Uncle Potsquatch ever disappears, okay, it's because I've probably gotten a strike or a ban for a week. Also, if YouTube were ever to overnight delete my channel, we will be back. Potsquatch will never die, okay? And just, you know, I might even set up a backup channel already so you can all know what it is if the fateful thing happened of them nuking us, okay? But, things to remember, we're going to be releasing the update video that we shot a number of days ago tomorrow. So that will be up for everyone to watch tomorrow, okay? Please like, subscribe, tell your friends. We're at a war with the, you know, draconian law overlords of YouTube to have our right to exist. So if a bunch of you are liking, subscribing, and tuning in, that helps us, you know, stand our ground against them, right? So do that if you don't mind, or if you're into it. And check out our store, potsquatchsales.com. Check that out. All our hats, t-shirts, grinders, and etc. Check it out, baby. All right. Also, we've got the Facebook group. So the Potsquatch Growers community on Facebook. It's a safe place for all people. Please answer the questions. It is a liability, but if you answer the questions, we can automatically let you in. The basic rule of thumb for that group, okay, is treat people with respect, okay? It's meant to be a safe place for all. So treat people with respect, be kind, and everyone's welcome, okay? So check it out. Much love to all of you, okay? Update video will come out tomorrow. We'll do a live again soon. You know, we got the new babies that are going to be coming out soon and running those, so that'll be lots of fun, okay? JLFC Fire MC. Don't have a favorite strain, but my favorite species is indica, and I prefer cushy based things. All right. Well, my friends, my family, I'm out. But remember, the true grower is the forever student. The true grower is not afraid to take risks. The true grower makes educated, stupid decisions. Love yourselves, love your plants, be kind to each other. The world's a fucked up place these days. We don't need to get along. Agree to get along. We probably should all try to get along and not blow ourselves up, though. So, differences of opinion are allowed. Okay? Anyway, keep it real. Keep it sexy, baby. I'll talk to you later. All right.